All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 13 of the Big Shred podcast. I am John Matos, and we've got a killer show for you today. I've got Dave Davidson and Dan Sugarman, some fucking killer guitar players, some real big shredders in their own right, and really stoked to get to talk to these guys. Both, huge personal inspirations for me. So awesome to have them on the what I feel like is pretty fitting, the 13th episode of the podcast. So if you're tuning in, thanks a ton. And I'm going to throw up the usual image on where you can follow the podcast. So follow us on Twitter, Instagram. This is streaming on Twitch as well, if Twitch is your thing. And then we'll have all of the episodes of the shows up on YouTube as well. So if you want to catch this later on YouTube, you can, and then this will be up on Spotify and all the great places where you can stream audio for podcasts if you're looking for just the audio version on the go. So like I mentioned before, really looking forward to this one. We've got a great show on Wednesday as well. So our usual Wednesday 7 o'clock stream. I've got Killian Duarte from Abiotic and Scale the Summit. He'll be hanging out with us along with Kyle Conkiel from Bad Wolves. So it'll be a bass heavy stream on Wednesday. If bass guitars is your thing, come hang out and ask those guys some questions. So Abiotic actually has some masks available right now. So if you check out our indie merch page, we've got some logo masks that are reversible on the other side. It's got our Human Beings Are Disgusting Creatures line from one of our songs. And if you pick up one of those masks, we're actually donating 50% of the proceeds to coronavirus relief. And that was, and we'll talk a little bit about it, but that was inspired by Dave and the awesome stuff Revocation has been doing in that vein as well. Now, the show is supported by Ormsby Guitars, so if you're in the market for a new guitar, look no further than Australia's own Ormsby Guitars. They've got some 6, 7, and 8-string models, some exotic shapes, some standard shapes, all kinds of different colors and awesome tops and stuff. So, Ormsby's got a guitar for, players of all styles. They've got artists like myself. I'm playing the Ormsby Goliath, the headless model right now. Rusty Cooley, Dino Cazares, bunch of great players as well, and the family's growing bigger. It seems like every day they've got a really cool group on Facebook that we can all kind of chat about the guitars and everything. So you can visit their Reverb page. On Reverb, they've got some guitars ready to ship, and shipping's really fast. I've seen some buddies get guitars in like 5 or 6 days. Somehow with all this, with shipping being delayed, guitars are still making it on time, which is awesome. And if you go and visit the Ormsby website, so ormsbyguitars.com, they've got some killer models that are coming down the pipeline. So a Rusty signature, a Dino signature, and some other upcoming runs that you can pre-order. So check them out. So without further ado, I will bring on tonight's first guest. Again, I'm super excited to be talking with today, Dave Davidson. Dave, how the hell are you, dude?
Doing good, John. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we were just talking about, Skype is just the wonkiest. So I'm just fixing our video really quick, and we're looking all good. And look at you, just extra large by yourself there. All right, awesome. So, dude, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know, you're, even with Corona going on, I know you're a busy guy with teaching, and you got all kinds of cool shit going on. So appreciate you taking the time. So, how's quarantine been treating you, man? What have you been up to? Are you still in Boston?
Yeah, I'm in Boston right now.
Okay.
Just hanging out. I've been teaching a bunch. I've been working on some new music. I've been doing a lot of different things, just staying busy creatively, but also sort of on the music biz side. I'm working on a website right now for myself.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's just a whole bunch of stuff, and adapting to the new normal that we musicians are facing.
Yeah, no kidding. It's not easy, but that's the big thing is adapting, right? Like if we're not adapting, but in the same token, I feel like us in our genre, I feel like we're kind of built for this shit too, right? Like it's just constantly adapt and overcome whatever we've got going on. So
That's a good point. Yeah, for sure. I mean, just being in a touring band every day is a new surprise and struggle sometimes. So yeah, you get good at sort of rolling with the punches.
yeah, yeah, and seeing the silver linings. I mean, and I've talked to some guys about it on the previous episodes of the show too. But it's like we're also kind of built for this shit. Where it's like when we're not out. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of a homebody as well, and we're just sitting holed up and playing guitar for however many hours. So
Right, right. For sure. We've been training for this.
yeah, awesome. So you're giving some lessons now in the off time. Are you taking on any new students or anything like that?
Yes, yeah. I've got a good core group of students right now, but I'm always open to teach new students. So yeah, if anyone is looking for guitar lessons right now, you can reach out to me at ddavidsonlessons@gmail.com. I believe that you can see that on my Instagram or whatever, David.Davidson. So I think that's in my bio or whatever. So yeah, I've been doing that, and then like I said, I'm working on a website that I'm gonna have some sort of like lesson packs and transcriptions and just sort of
Awesome.
links to other things that I'm doing. It's been a while. It's been a long time coming, but I need like a central hub for sort of all my stuff because I'm doing the teaching, Revocation, my new band. So there's a whole lot of irons in the fire. So I kind of want to just keep filter all the traffic sort of just through one site for myself. So it's a work in progress, but it's gonna be done hopefully like in the next like week or two. So keep
Nice.
an eye for that. Yep.
Okay, yeah, yeah, definitely send it my way, and I'll be happy to push that.
Sure.
And yeah, and that'll be sick to be able to, like you said, a singular hub where if somebody knows the new band and for some reason haven't heard Revocation, they can check that out, or vice versa, or lessons or all that cool stuff. So I'll be looking forward to it and peeping some of those licks. I need to learn me some Dave Davidson licks. So
Anytime, man. Thanks. Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, it's been a lot of work, but I've been sort of compiling and adding to sort of all the lesson materials that I've created over the years, like guitar profiles and PDFs of music theory. So normally I give that stuff out for free in my lessons.
yeah,
But through the site, I'm gonna have like if you don't want to take a lesson with me or whatever, you can like just sort of download it from like this sort of lesson pack section of the website that I'm making. But it's been a lot of work, but it's been fun. Like just going in and like compiling all, yeah, like I said, like all of the different materials and doing them in like a real kind of focused way. So it's been a fun little project and keeping me busy.
nice. Yeah, yeah, that sounds awesome, man. Like I said, I'm gonna be diving into that for sure. So with Revocation, obviously, if maybe I did a shitty intro and didn't intro you properly, so Dave Davidson of Revocation and Gargoyle, which we will get into as well. So with Corona and obviously touring kind of coming to a screeching halt, did you guys have some tours cancel or get postponed or anything?
Yeah, I mean, just about everyone that I know has.
Yeah,
It's just one of the shitty things about this whole thing is the financial impact on everybody, obviously, right? So
totally.
and it's just a bummer when you are looking forward to playing shows and all of a sudden you wake up one morning and everything is just canceled. Not only things that were on the books, but sort of for the foreseeable future. You don't even really
Right.
know when you're going to be able to go back out. I mean, I think we're all hoping it's going to be sooner rather than later, but at the same time, you get to sort of follow the guidelines that are being set forth. Anyway, yeah, so we had a bunch of festivals in Europe planned
Oh
that
man.
we had to cancel that whole run. And uh, I mean, I love touring in Europe. I love touring in general. Um, but it's like the festivals are it's like kind of a special time because there's so many bands and there's just so many people, and it's just an exciting uh, atmosphere. It's unlike any other kind of touring that you're going to be doing. When
Yeah.
you're used to the sort of club circuit, even if you're playing like bigger clubs, the festival thing is just like on a whole different level. It's actually probably like a little less comfortable than some of like the club touring and stuff like that, just because there's so many people and but again it depends like I guess on the festival, but it's it's just a special time in Europe when all these metalheads from not only across Europe but really all around the world descend on these random towns in Czech
Yeah.
Republic or in France or wherever, right? Because they're
Yep.
never in like the main city centers, right? They're always like
Right.
in some sort of outskirt, like open air field somewhere, and it's just cool. Like it's a very like you're just surrounded by the sea of metalheads, and it's a really special feeling, and just the sheer numbers playing in front of that many people, it's a really intoxicating experience. So it's super sad, all the money stuff aside. It's a bummer to not be able to perform because everyone was really looking forward to that.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's a bummer. And those festivals, like just seeing the lineups is always so sick because I feel like they're not pigeonholed to a singular genre. So and it's like the most obscure bands you never heard of that like band dudes are way stoked to get to go see. And then the opposite, like Alan from Black Dahlia was telling me that they played some festival out there, I think with like where Stevie Wonder played on like one of the stages or something.
Right, right.
And then like some like obscure black metal band that he was like obsessed with that he got to go see too. So yeah, I haven't. We got to play Europe, but not on like a festival circuit just yet. But
Right.
just seeing the lineups and getting to see videos from those shows, I can just imagine what it's like to be able to play in front of those crowds, where it's really almost like, and no matter how big your band is, you're playing in front of people that likely haven't heard of your band before.
Yeah, for sure. And you touched on a really good point. I mean, like as a fan, yeah, like seeing other bands that you because normally you know how it goes, right? You're on tour and you're seeing the same three bands every night, but like
Right.
or four bands or whatever the package is. But like, at a festival, there's going to be all these different bands and all these different tours that are going out that are, coagulating in these different festivals. So it's great to see so many cool bands all in one place. I mean, when we played Hellfest, it was like Slayer headline and
Oh,
like Emperor played, and some other tent. I mean, there's just so many things going on, and it was so great to see all that. And then also, not to mention the hangs, right? I mean, you're backstage, and I love the touring camaraderie. It just feels like some kind of weird like heavy metal summer camp. But then you're also meeting up with other tour packages, so you get to bump into buddies that you haven't
exactly.
seen in a while, and it's just like this one giant hang. Um, yeah, like we were all like, I remember I was like hanging out with like some of the Archspire guys and some of the Psychroptic guys, and we were bouncing around watching Emperor and just drinking beers, and it was just a good vibe all around. So anyway, enough lamenting that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully next year. So
Yep.
I'm cautiously optimistic about it. So I really hope that things are looking good for next year, and 2021 is like when things start to kind of get going again. But you hear from some of the scientists saying that like things could get worse potentially with like the flu season, and then that kind of getting all mixed up with corona and not knowing who's got flu, who's got corona, whatever. But I think it's gonna take personally anyway until 2021 to like for people to be comfortable also to like go out to shows and for frankly for bands to be comfortable to playing shows.
Right. Yeah, there's so many variables, and it's just sort of impossible to forecast.
Yeah.
I think just sort of the human nature, from a business standpoint, all these things like we're trying to constantly forecast into the future, and
Right.
in the touring business, right? It's not just you're thinking a week ahead or a month ahead. You might be thinking 6 months to I mean, we've thought a year ahead before
Oh
sometimes, like
yeah.
right around the records coming out. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, we're doing this, then we have this lined up, and then this thing's coming down the pipeline, like in the summertime. So, I mean, it just takes a lot of logistical work and a lot of time to coordinate these types of things. So,
Yep.
until we know for sure that like things are going to be okay to come back and not risk booking a tour that's just going to get canceled a week into it or whatever because like another outbreak happens or whatever.
Right.
um, it's just a lot, so it's kind of like you got to start the clock once everything chills out, but it's gonna take time from there. It's not just like, okay, boom, everything's open back up. Plus think of the competition for the venues, right? Because
Yep.
everyone's going to want to come out and tour when it's okay to tour. So there's going to be just so many packages going out, and That could create issues too with
Yeah.
holds on venues. I mean, I've worked pretty closely with our booking agent before on booking tours and stuff. And man, sometimes you're out 4 months in advance and like, all right, we want to play this club on a Friday night, and it's like, sorry, someone else
Yeah.
already booked it. You're like, it's 4 months from now. Like, are you kidding me? But that's just the name of the game because there's
Yeah.
just that many and there's so many. I mean, there's only so many mid-size level clubs in any given major city, that and that cater to our style of music, right? So
Right.
it's a whole thing, but we'll survive.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know. So you did mention a little bit that during quarantine you've been working on some new music. So is that new Revocation? Are we getting a Dave Davidson solo album? Are we? I know you're working on again. We'll talk a little bit about as well your new band Gargoyl.
Yeah, I mean, kind of all of the above. I guess I'll just go down the line. So Revocation, we're for sure working on new music. We're writing right now.
Sweet.
I'm super excited about how the material is shaping up. Very aggressive, very dark. Uh, you know, in a similar vein to the outer ones, but obviously we're trying to bring something new to the table every time we do a record. That's
Yeah.
one thing that I'm very proud of with Revocation is our catalog to me has always been diverse and always we're always evolving. Like there's certain bands that I really look up to. Like I mean like Death, right? I mean who doesn't look up to Death? But I mean I love each one of their sort of artistic periods. And so I can look at their catalog as a whole and say, okay, they got the old school death shit, and then the more progressive death metal, and like things that really influenced modern day progressive death metal bands. But I thought it was so cool that like there were these like artistic periods that they went through, almost like different like painters like go through specific periods like with their work or whatever.
Totally.
So I take a lot of inspiration from that, and I think it's cool to create a sound and sort of a core umbrella or whatever that your music falls under, but like how can you keep expanding that while sort of strengthening the core at the same time? So
Exactly.
working on that.
Nice.
Gargoyle is my new project. That's Gargoyle with no E. We're intentionally spelling it wrong. Just to do something different. I'm really passionate about this new project. We got signed to Season of Mist, which I think is a perfect home for the band. Very
Yeah.
avant.
Congrats, man.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Actually, speaking of festivals, the reason that we got one of the reasons we got signed was I was hanging out with Michael, the owner, at Hellfest. Right. Again, it's just one of those things where industry people and this and that, and
Yep.
I've hung out with Michael like a couple of times, but we were really broing down, just like drinking pitchers of beer, listening to watching Slayer, and
Oh
I
man.
brought up this new band to him, and he's like, "Oh, this sounds." I gave him like the pitch basically. I'm like, "Hey, I'm working on this new thing. I think you might be into it." And I don't know if it was the two pitchers of beer we were drinking a piece or what, but he was like, "Oh, that sounds really cool. You should send me that." So yeah, sent him some demos, and within like a day we got like a contract from them. Basically, they were that stoked
Wow.
on it. It's
Hell
cool
yeah,
to
dude.
be working with a label, especially when it's like a new project that's not like proven yet, and then people are really excited about it. So we've got an EP out on Spotify already. It's called Zomatus, so you can find that and listen to it. Just basically like demo versions of some of the songs that are going to be on the record. But yeah, we finished recording that, and the artwork's all wrapped up. It's mixed, it's mastered.
Nice.
Tentatively, the plan is for it to be released in the fall. Don't quote me on that right now. It's not an official announcement, but that's
Right.
sort of if all goes well, that's when it's going to come out. But definitely, if that timeline stays true, look for some new music starting to trickle out and more sort of press around the band coming out this summer, like in July-ish, I would say. So yeah, very pumped on that. Give that a listen. You mentioned a solo project. I'm working on some stuff right now. I've got sort of a couple things that I, I I approach and then I kind of back away from to work on other things, and then I come back to it's
Yeah.
it's definitely like a labor of love, but I'm sort of working on it more in my leisure. I mean, the way it's shaping up to be right now, it might just be like solo guitar. Like I mean, I don't even know. Like we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm a big fan of like a lot of sort of like more modern like classical music and like solo guitar pieces. So I've been
Yeah.
sort of trying my hand at that. You know, now that I'm putting it out there into the ether, I guess like I have to really, you know, put more effort into to working on it. So this is myself I'm keeping myself accountable here, I guess. And then most recently, I partnered with Luke LeMay from Gorguts, who I'm just such a fan of. It's been a dream to work with Luke. I've wanted to work with him for years now, but basically, and Elliot from Carbomb is in this project, and Liam from Dillinger Escape Plan. So just like a total super group of just amazing musicians.
Gnarly.
But basically, Frank from Metal Injection is putting on, from what I can tell, the first of its kind in the metal world anyway, but like an online free streaming concert called Slay at Home Festival. It's happening May 29th and May 30th. Very clever, Frank, with the wordplay there. Uh, and yeah, it's just a bunch of different bands like doing covers or you know doing their originals, and they're gonna film it and he's gonna edit it all together. So he approached me about doing that, and I thought for me like, all right, rather than do like a cover or this or that, like let me try to, you know, take advantage of you know what's happening right now, and see if I can't put the feelers out to some musicians that I've wanted to work with, you know, because no one's touring, no one's really doing it, and I'm like, I might as well reach out and see if there's any interest, and luckily everyone was like super on board, and
That's awesome.
yeah, Luke and I started writing, and just ideas were clicking like right off the bat, and Luke hasn't really been playing much guitar for the past few years. Like
Oh man.
he's just like he's a creative, so he's doing woodworking and this and that. He's like in composing for like classical, but he's kind of always doing different things. So it was funny actually. Michael, again, the president of Season of Mist, he like hit me up on Facebook. He's like, "How the hell did you bring Luke out of hibernation?" You know what I mean? Like, so it's gotten us both super inspired. The song is pretty much written. I'm just working on lyrics for it right now, and we're gonna be premiering this sort of commissioned piece of disgusting, gross, dark death metal for this Slay at Home festival. So if you're not doing anything, May 29th, May 30th, what else would you be doing anyway? You know, log on and watch some bands performing.
Fuck yeah, dude. So Slay at Home Fest. I mean, you've got a busy, a busy life. Like you got a lot on your plate, man.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been keeping me focused, and I've been doing like kind of similar things to this, actually, little interview series here and there with some of my buddies, just talking guitar, just nerd shit, But it's good. It's something I look forward to, and it breaks up sort of the monotony of the day. I think everyone is so starved for interaction right now, so the fact that I can teach over Skype or talk to you, doing these or staying creative and putting my mind into those creative modes of thought has been really I think it's good, and I'm lucky that I can do that, and I feel fortunate that it's like a good sort of distraction or whatever you want to call it from what's going on.
Yeah, I say it all the time that that's how I kind of cope with stress and with like, I don't know, things that are not in my control. I'm just like, all right, how can I get busier? What more can I put on my plate to just like go and not stop and like you said, distract a little bit, but also just get it out. Get out the frustration, get out the ideas, get out the, be creative, and it can just kind of pushing yourself to do that stuff if you're feeling like in a rut and like, you're feeling like you said complacent and just like it's getting mundane. That's probably what the way to just like shake your body out of it, just like start doing some shit.
Oh yeah, I mean it's so cathartic, like when you're writing, when you're feeling all these sort of anxieties or this or that, which I think everyone is feeling to some extent right now, whether it's economic or there's people worried about what the next 6 months are going to look like, but being able to sit down with my instrument, that's always been the best therapy for me, and that's sometimes when I write my best shit, when I'm feeling some kind of way, and you can just kind of go into this sort of meditative state, through whatever your medium, your art medium is, and really get some of those emotions out. I think metal in general specifically is built for this. Death metal, whatever, like let's just call it, the metal genre in general. There's this sort of beautiful alchemy, I think, that takes place where you're taking all the negative emotions that you're feeling or all the negative things that are happening in the world that you want to like talk about or that are just affecting you. Even if you're not writing lyrics, you could be, I've written stuff not based off of something that I heard musically that inspired me, but like off of a movie that I watched or just like, feeling some kind of way about
Yeah.
the world in general. Um, and it turns that sort of negativity into something that's positive, right? Into something that's positive for yourself because it's cathartic and you're processing those emotions in a really healthy, beautiful way to create art. And it's helpful to other people because they're able to listen to that music and enjoy that too, and you know get out what they need to get out when they listen to it, or it affects them in some kind of way. So yeah, that strange alchemy with death metal where we're singing about the most negative shit constantly, but it's actually like really helpful to anyone that's a fan of the music.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. And actually, so I don't want to like fanboy too much here, but I was jamming the Outer Ones today. I was like out in the yard doing some shit and was jamming that, and obviously not the first time, fucking super sick, but I did when you mentioned like how death was and is like a big influence for you and all that stuff. Like when I was listening to that album and thinking back to the other ones that I, when I first got back into you guys, like with the self-titled and everything, I was like, this is like the modern day death. Like this is what I need. So, yeah, so we're like finishing up writing a record, and I kind of like to the best that I can, I purposely like don't listen to death metal as much as I can when we're writing, so I'm not like subconsciously stealing from you. Um, but I was listening to it today, and I was like, dude, this is like death, and then all of my favorite shrapnel guitar players.
Oh,
And
awesome.
so, if again, if you need any other reason to listen to Revocation, um, death and all the shrapnel shredders. So I can't wait to hear the next one, man.
It's
Um,
doing yard work, you're just out there just weed whacking and just getting all brutal in the yard.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what you do when you turn 30. You just your life changes and you start doing yard work instead of like drinking pitchers like Dave Davidson. Um, so before we get into the next part, I'm gonna say what's up to some people in the chat here. So Eddie Torres says, "Dave, sign my fingers and come play Brazil." I think he's being a little facetious there. Nick says, "Real boys right here. What's up, guys?" Marcus says, "I love you guys." Marcus sounds like he's hyped for some new stuff. And then Montana says, "We love the nerd shit." So it sounds like he's watching your IG
Oh yeah,
lives.
thank you.
Killer, man. So let's go back. So how did you get into guitar playing? When did you start? And like what kind of what spawned you getting into music?
Sure, I started when I was 12. For me, it was Aerosmith. I was watching, I was Falling in Love is Harder Than Knees video off of the Nine Lives record, and Joe Perry just looked so fucking badass, and he was like playing this awesome solo, and I don't know, it was just that young, impressionable age as a kid, and just sort of listening to what was on the radio and stuff, I guess. I mean, I was actually like prior to that, my real like love was Weird Al. I was like so into Weird Al as a kid, which I still think Weird Al is awesome.
I do too. I do too.
But like as far as like like a badass like rock band, like all right, like I want to start like playing guitar and stuff like that. That was what got me into that, and then it just kind of like snowballed. Like I was like super obsessed with Aerosmith for like a couple years, and then I got into like Guns N' Roses, and then from there like it went like Metallica, Pantera, basically, and then that just kind of opened up the floodgates. So there was something in my ear that was drawing me to more aggressive styles of music, harder and harder shit. I don't know exactly, because I remember being a kid like when I was into Aerosmith and like thinking like Metallica was like too heavy, like it wasn't for
Yeah.
me or something, you know what I mean? And then like yeah, just this sort of snowball effect started happening, and I was just getting into more and more heavier stuff. And then once you get into Metallica and Pantera, it's like you just realize there's this little keyhole, right? This window into like a whole nother
Oh yeah.
world and then you go through that door and you're like, oh, there's black metal and there's death metal and there's thrash metal and there's all these different grindcore, all these different subgenres. And I was just like a sponge. I just like ate it all up. I mean, I was definitely really into thrash. That was kind of like sort of I think what defined me earlier. I wasn't like, wearing like, like patches and like denim and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I kind of had more, which is fine. It was just I wasn't really into like that side. It was more just like I've just always been like kind of a jeans and a t-shirt kind of guy, I guess. But like the music of that, and then finding like checking out like Emperor and Immortal and being like, whoa, like what this is like totally different.
Yep.
And then like checking out like I mean, this was all kind of happening at once. So I don't know when it was, when I got into black metal versus when I got into death metal, but
Right.
um, yeah, it's like you're just downloading all this stuff into your brain as a kid, and you're still so impressionable, and yeah, it just made such a profound impact on me. So I just started playing guitar like more and more, and like learning other band stuff, and like writing my own stuff like pretty quickly. I think I always had a creative mind for it. I mean, even when I was learning just like folk chords, like I would just make up my own progressions with them,
Yeah.
for whatever reason. I think sometimes people have like mental block when it comes to just moving stuff around, but for me, whether it was like yeah, like a open kind of 3 chord folk song that I could just kind of manipulate and jumble up the chords to like learning more and more sort of complex styles of playing. um I've always wanted to incorporate that into my own style. So yeah, when I was getting into death metal and thrash and all that kind of stuff, it all just sort of bled together and kind of fused in my mind. I think that's sort of where the Revocation sound came from early on. And then at the same time, when I was really up in that death metal, thrash metal kind of world as a kid, like, 16, 17, just like super obsessive over the genre, um, I was going to an arts high school, and that was my first exposure to jazz. So I was learning Pat Martino solos, Wes Montgomery solos, playing in jazz big band, playing in guitar ensembles with other guitar players. So I was getting my ass kicked
Yeah.
in a whole nother genre at the same time, and so I think that also kind of blended in with my style and like crept in here and there a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part that sticks out to me when I hear a song that even if and it's what all of us guitar players and musicians, I think in general, kind of aspire to, right? Which is like being able to hear someone if you don't know it's them. And I think you've nailed that for sure. And I think a big part of it is, in my opinion anyway, the jazz background and how you do your take on infusing it, because obviously we've had like the Cynics and like those Death as well, and the other bands that do it really well, but I think you've got a different take on it. Do you? So, and this is kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but you went to Berkeley, which is fucking awesome. Do you feel that your time there in Berkeley, and then I didn't know about the art school as well, is that still in your writing style now, or were those just kind of like building blocks and then you made it your own?
Um, I mean, I think anything that you learn, you're gonna sort of take. If it's a concept, like there's sort of specific, like there's micro and macro things, right? So
Right.
there's sort of very specific things, and then like those are part of like more general, like overarching uh, concepts and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think any kind of general overarching concept, if it's got a lot of merit to it, then you're gonna have that with you for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can sort of essentially boil music down, or sort of, I guess, any art form to sort of some main key core components, and then it's just a matter of like how do you work on those things, like how do you develop them and get them so that they're you don't have to think about them anymore, right?
Right.
And there's
Right.
just so ingrained in you that it's like literally just speaking a language like you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, whether it's your chord vocabulary, right? Like that's like a huge like general overarching concept. In metal, that's nowadays it seems to be more people are exploring different sort of voicings more and more it's not just sort of like power chords and stuff like that, right? Um, but that's something that's totally uh, guys are always striving to develop their chord vocabulary and their comping in jazz, right? Because that's such like a big part of the genre. Whether you're playing like solo jazz guitar, like in like a Joe Pass style, or like a more modern guy like Kurt Rosenwinkel or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Those like all these you hear these beautiful voicings, and you're like, oh my god, that's amazing. Now me as a a teenager learning those, like I knew, okay, I have to learn these voicings because I got to like have something to play during big band, rehearsal, and like we're gonna have a jazz performance like coming up at like some hall or something like that, or like
Right.
like a competition with like regional. Like I need to like, I can't play power chords over this shit. I need to be able to like play something that's stylistically appropriate.
Yep.
But then at the same time, I was filtering it through the metal head part of my brain that was like, oh, like these voicings sound super weird. Like I bet these would sound cool with like distortion or whatever, So I'd like whatever jazz amp I'd be practicing on at school, I'd like, crank the overdrive on it and like start like riffing out with it. Like, oh yeah, I can make some sounds from this. So yeah, like kind of a general something that has a specific sort of intended use, right? And then realizing like, no genre has like a monopoly on like a specific voicing, and it's just kind of open to anything. Or your timing, right? I mean, like no
Yeah.
matter what genre you're in, whether it's, you know, rock or hip hop or jazz or classical or death metal, you can always tell the musicians that have really great timing. Um, a lot of times, like I mean, like you've probably witnessed this before, like a bunch of times, but like you're on tour or whatever, and there's like a local band playing, and like the drummer is just like so killer, and
Yeah.
you're just like, oh my god, like this guy is like, he's just making the whole band sound so good because he's that tight. And then
Yep.
like, you might see another band and the drummer is like doesn't have it together, and the band could be awesome, but it's not coming together because like the main kind of pillar of rhythm is like crumbling, right? So,
Yep.
um, yeah, like timing. Anyway, so I guess sort of my long-winded answer to your question there is like, yeah, I'm definitely refining the things that I learned. Like when you're in college for 4 years, I mean, you're just trying to. I'm doing like arranging for a big band course or like a general music theory course, or I studied a little bit of music education, so I had to take like piano lessons and stuff like that. So you're
Yeah.
just trying to like make the grades and make sure that you're doing well semester to semester. It
Right.
wasn't until like after I graduated that I felt like I kind of had breakthroughs with some of that material and was really able to unpack a lot of the stuff, because it's just you're bombarded every semester with like 8 different courses that you have to take, right? So your kind of attention is everywhere. But like after the you don't have to worry about like getting the grades anymore. You're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Like let me dive into this concept or into that concept, um, which I found to be very helpful. Like after the fact, when I was revisiting and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you can hear it, from the early Revel records through the outer ones where it's evolved. So and just like you said, it's something a little bit different along the way, and you know I think records in general are the timestamp of where we are as musicians, where our heads are at, where our ideal sound at the time, and then ideally that evolves. So
Yep.
for people, I don't know, I say it all the time, it's like for people that are just listening to bands that just want the same record over and over again, I don't know, you're not going to get that from me. So um, so going back, so do you remember the first guitar that you got?
Yeah, it was a Yamaha Pacifica.
Oh man, so I, as a kid, wanted that guitar so bad.
It was black with a white pickguard. I think it was like $150 or something like that.
Exactly, and that's what I was aspiring to at the time. Like when I was first starting, mine was a Discovery. I got it like at a local music shop for like $74 or something like that.
The brand was called Discovery.
It's called Discovery. It was. I've never seen another one since. But it was the cheapest electric guitar they had at the shop that I could afford. And but that's funny that you say that though, because yeah, I remember just like begging my mom and her after obviously I knew Santa Claus wasn't a thing anymore for Christmas. I was just like find this guitar for me, just please, anywhere. And she just couldn't find it. Or maybe she could and it was too expensive, but
Right, right. Oh
uh,
man, yes, yeah. See, I thought I had the bottom of the barrel, but like the Discovery, yeah. I had the Rolls Royce of shitty guitars. Like,
yeah, compared to the Discovery, I don't know, but or maybe it was a sick guitar and the guy didn't know what he had, and
right,
I
right,
I'm
yeah. Some luthier, some crazy luthier. It's like a
yeah.
work of art.
So and so do you remember subsequently like your first show? Was it soon after, or did you not get on the stage for a little while?
Oh man, so the first show I played, I think it was. I'll tell you about two because they were like right around the same time. So we
Yeah.
played a talent show at my first middle school, and like the other bands were doing like emo covers and stuff like that, and we were just doing like full bore like our version of death thrash like back in the day. I think we actually won the talent show.
Nice.
I think there was or maybe we came in second place or something like that. But I remember we weren't last. Um, and then like as far as like a real show goes, like not like a school sponsored thing.
Right.
Played in Jamaica Plain, which is like a part of Boston.
Yeah.
A bunch of my friends were living at the time, and we played. It was like I think it was like a Puerto Rican dance hall called Spontaneous Celebrations that we rented out. We were called Akeldama at the time. That was like my very first. That was a like band name one was that,
Yeah.
and we were able to get Anal Cunt to headline.
What?
Yeah, it was a strange, strange show.
That's insane. So what was that like? Like what did was the turnout good because they were headlining?
Well, I mean, I don't think they
Jamaica
ever.
Plain at a Puerto Rican dance hall.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was. It's called Spontaneous Celebrations. I mean, it's so fuzzy because it was so long ago. I
Yeah,
mean, maybe like 70 people there or something like that.
killing it.
Maybe, probably not. There was probably like 30 people there. Say between 30 and 70. I don't know. It was a long. This was like this point. Actually, who knows? 20 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it was just crazy because like the guitar player, Josh, like didn't show up until like halfway through their set,
Oh man.
and like Seth was like wasted obviously, and like he had to like play my guitar, and I had like a Floyd Rose, and it was like tuned to E flat,
Ugh.
and he's like that's useless, drop it down to A, and like I had like like light top, like it was like 10 to 46 or something like that, like string gauge, so like
Yeah.
dumping that down to like A, drop A
All the
was,
wobbles.
yeah, it just my guitar was just so out of whack. But I was just like, just some kid like, oh, I gotta like save the show because like this is like
Yeah.
going down. And then he ended up showing up like halfway. Josh showed up like halfway through their set and like just like plugged in. It was it was a wild wild show.
You ever play with them again and talk about that?
Uh,
Like since?
uh, no, I don't think we ever played with them again. Uh, no, yeah. And maybe like a faster side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if we ever did.
Be like, yeah, you remember that time we played and you fucked my whole setup up? You remember
Yeah. I
that?
mean, I doubt he would even remember.
Yeah. Um, cool. So fast forward after your first show, so Revocation gets started about, if I'm right, 2006 or 8.
2006 was when we
6.
put out our Summon the Spawn EP,
Yep.
and then Empire of the Obscene, the full length, came after that.
Right, there you go. So that record came out while you were at Berkeley, right? Or the EP.
The no the full length came out while I was at Berkeley. Yeah, I
Okay.
think the EP came out like just shy of that.
Damn, what was it like trying to like write and track a record and all the stuff that goes along with the record, like and being in college at the same time?
It was we made it work. It was fun. It was a labor of love. So you just kind of get it done. Um, yeah, I don't remember being like too stressed out over it. It was more just like super exciting. I think. I think any
Yeah,
all of the stress and like all like the bullshit that comes along with that, because it was our first full length album, like making a record that we really wanted to do. Like the general excitement of that just sort of superseded everything else.
Nice. Would you say that your family was pretty supportive coming up when like did you have a moment that you told them like, hey, I want to tour like for a living, and what was that like?
Uh, I think they didn't really get. I mean, they were supportive for sure. But I mean, there was definitely like conversations about like how you gonna make a living and like this and that.
Yeah.
But I always had faith in it. And I could kind of see, even though the numbers were sort of small in the beginning, but I could see like exponential growth was happening. And like I'm not like a math whiz, but if you're like, oh, okay, like every year we're sort of like doubling what we're doing, like I'm not gonna like I'm gonna try to ride this train all the way to the last stop here.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, like I knew in my heart that I was on the right track, and I think if you're just really determined, you have to have like talent and like the desire and like everybody and like the business acumen to do it, and like everybody being on the same page. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
factors and variables, right? But um, I just was persistent with my goal, and just like I was listening to an interview with jazz guitar player Pat Metheny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like super insane jazz guitar player.
Mhm.
If anyone's listening that doesn't know who he is, like he's like one of like the legends, living legends of
Autumn
jazz guitar.
Autumn Leaves, if you've ever heard that song.
Yeah, yeah. Check out his record Question and Answer. It's like just insane playing. Anyway, I was listening to an interview he was giving, and someone was like, what would you have done if it wasn't music? People get
Yeah.
asked that a lot. Like, oh, I'd be a firefighter, or like, oh, I'd be a chef, and
Right.
like that question like didn't even compute for him. He was like, what do you mean? He was like, like what would you have done? He was basically like, there was no backup plan. Like I
Yeah.
practiced for 12 hours a day and was like gigging since I was like 10. You know what I mean? Like this was my goal. So I'm gonna do anything and everything to be the best at this. And it shows. So I think sometimes it's definitely good to have a backup plan, stuff like that. I'm not saying like don't go to college, kids. Fuck that. What I mean? Like it's good because you never know, right? There's so many variables, and Pat Metheny just had like a disgusting level of like technique and
Yeah.
ability, I mean, all things that he worked on. But there's if you believe in something and if you like aren't good, like no amount of it's like I'm never gonna play like for the NBA. What I mean? I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
like there's certain things like even if I like wanted it so bad, it's just like it's just not gonna happen. So
Yeah. It's a Gary V thing where it's like, if you I'm not Beyonce, right? Like I'm not like it's never gonna happen.
right.
But find something that you're good at, work on that. If you happen to love what you're good at, don't stop doing it for anything.
That's the key. Yeah, yeah. It's that combination of being passionate about something that you're good at or that you're getting good at that you're developing, right?
Yeah.
So, um, it's hard though with again all these different variables, right?
Yeah.
Because especially right now, like I mean, I really feel for people that are just trying to like figure stuff out because this just threw everybody such a huge curveball. But if you're passionate about what you do and you're good at what you do and there's potential there, uh, obviously explore that and try to cultivate your craft because there's so many people out there that are all sort of wanting the same thing, right? So how can you set yourself apart? How can you be different? It doesn't mean having the best technique either. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you could be a really great songwriter. Play to your strengths, right? But I think the world is definitely always in need of creativity, and new ideas in the art realm that help propel any kind of art form forward. But just make sure that you're getting into it for the right reasons because it's like
Yeah.
it is that same kind of dedication that like I was talking about with Pat Metheny, where like there's if you're that focused on it and you're that good, like things are gonna happen. But if you're like kind of half in it, half out of it, you
Yep.
know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're kind of good, you don't really care. It's like then that's the time to kind of like you're probably gonna need to have some kind of backup plan in place in case it's just like, I'm over this now, or like, oh, I want to pursue something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. I mean, you ideally you want to have that like all or nothing mentality because you know a lot of times people say like that's what it takes, but also you want to have the backup plan. But then you're like, oh, if I have a backup plan, am I really all in this? Or you
Right.
know, so it's like, and you said like it's all the variables. It's you know you can be amazing, but do you have the business acumen? Are you playing you know in the music world, like are you playing things that people are gonna be attracted to in a given time, like, or are you playing something that was popular 5-10 years ago and it's not making the rounds anymore, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's so many things to think about. I guess for me, what I always stayed true to is not worrying about what's popular or this or that, and then
Yeah,
like kind of creating your own uh style and your own sort of fan base like from that. Because I think if
yep,
you're trying to please other people, like you said, like you got to that trend like a year late, like but again, like who are you really writing music for at that point? Are you writing music because you want
right,
to be like cool to be in a band or whatever, or it's cool to like play in this specific kind of subgenre at the time?
right,
'Cause, trends come and go, but if like true music that's timeless, I feel like comes from such an honest place from the artists themselves that it's going to stand the test of time,
that's a great point.
uh, no matter what. I guess for me is when I'm asked that kind of question, I it's always a complicated sort of contradictory answer because like I want people that are listening to be inspired to pursue their dreams, but also to be realistic at the same time with like what it takes, because there's some people out there that are like amazing musicians and amazing players, but like they like can't stand touring or this or that, or like they think
Right,
they want that and then they go out and they do it, and like that is like a total deal breaker, right? So
yep.
again, there's so many facets to that, and you have to really make sure that you dig all of it. So I guess the best thing to do is like go out there, once touring starts again, if you're down to be in a band, hit the road, try it for a couple weeks, and like that trial by fire will let you know if it's even for you or not, like pretty quickly, I think.
Basically, see if you're down to not take a shower for about a week, then you can talk about like touring and being in a band.
Right.
um, Rad. So what are your favorite parts about touring? Like, is it is it being on stage? Is it meeting the people? What do you enjoy most about it?
I love it all, man. I love traveling, right? I love performing. I think there's an amazing connection that you get with the audience when you're up on stage and you're just feeling that energy. It's so intoxicating and so rewarding. Um, I mean, I love the cultures that I get to visit, right?
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of different types of food, so like going to different places and trying local cuisines, or like having a promoter or whatever like take you around, or even just point like, oh, you got to go here, right? Like that's like those like life experiences that you're gonna cherish for forever.
that reminds me. Sorry to interrupt you, but that reminds me of so back when I lived in South Florida, I'd seen your guys' picture. I think you were playing the Culture Room, and I'd seen your guys' picture at like what was it like Crab Daddy or something?
Crabman 305, yeah.
Crabman 305.
Yeah.
I think I seen you guys either post it or maybe they posted it or something. And I was just like,
Yeah.
is that Revocation? Like,
Yeah, we went there a couple times. It's in Opelika, Florida, which is like not the nicest neighborhood,
I
but like
lived in Opelika. I know.
we just like rolled up and like we're just like whatever, like we want some crab and we just want to like and we just like crush it in the parking lot like in the van. Um, but yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, crab man's good. I follow like Trick Daddy on Instagram.
Yeah.
And like he would randomly be talking about like Crabman 305 and stuff like that, and they give him shout outs. And I'm like,
He's been
all
having a
right,
rough
well,
go, man.
Trick Daddy has been.
He's been having a rough go.
Yeah, I see. I haven't like been on his page in a while. What's new and let's pivot to talk about Trick
Yeah,
Daddy
let's
first.
talk about Trick
What,
Daddy first. No.
Trick?
Last I saw was just a mugshot and just his hair, like his hairline being very weird. So like he just was not he was
Oh,
not looking like Trick. And actually, just to kind of finish up the Trick Daddy thing.
Uh-huh.
So growing up, I worked at a Sears in Pembroke Pines, Florida, which not too far from Opelika. And Trick Daddy actually came in to like buy a toaster, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
the cashier to like cash him out.
Right.
So as he was walking up, I was next to someone, and we're just like, "Oh shit, is that Trick Daddy?" And she was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So we both pretended like, kind of, well, not to like be weird or anything, so we didn't acknowledge that he was Trick Daddy. And
Right.
I asked him for his name for like and his phone number for for like the warranty or some shit like that, and he just told me his name was George Washington, and just like was mad, like stormed off because I guess we didn't like go crazy that it was Trick Daddy. But anyway,
Damn, that's too bad. Well, I hope Trick Daddy's legal troubles are taken care of
me
soon
too,
enough.
man.
But yeah, he's like always like cooking on his Instagram, and he's just like hilarious. So I'm like, after I saw a couple Crabman 305 posts, like I'm like looking at the tour pass, like, oh man, we're gonna be rolling through Florida. Like we should totally hit up this like Trick Daddy sanctioned app spot.
Trick Daddy approved.
Trick Daddy approved. Yeah, and
I mean, he loves the kids, man. So what are you gonna do about it?
yeah, yeah, and they, it was a good spot. I would frequent it again.
Anyway, we said all that to say local cuisine. So
Local
obviously,
cuisine.
the Opalaka Crabman 305. Shout out.
Yeah, it was great. I back it. But yeah, things like that. Just like yeah, a random spot. Like when am I going to be in Opelika, Florida again? Like having those experiences, whether it's like, yeah, like this like hole in the wall spot, uh, or like something that's, you know, like when I was just in Australia, I was
Oh
like
man.
creeping on Eric Wareheim's Instagram because he's just always like posting like food stuff, and they just did a tour of Australia. So I like found all these like cool spots to hit up. So I'm like, all right, I'll save up a few PDs and like treat myself to like a nice dinner and like make myself feel like a real adult. And again, it's like when's the next time I'm gonna be in Melbourne, Australia? Like I
Melbourne.
want to experience things like that. Um, there's that side of it. There's just like the traveling and exploring. Like I love architecture and museums and even just sort of like open like public spaces and stuff like that. So like on tour, like we got to play Hawaii. That was our very last show. And like did some exploring around Hawaii, like checked out different spots. And then we've been there a couple of times now on tour. So like the time before then, we were hiking and stuff. So
Awesome.
uh, yeah, I love to like have these great life experiences. I mean, it takes all kinds, right? Some people just want to like hang back and you know, chill at the club and play video games or whatever, and like
Right.
that's yeah, everyone's got their vibe. For me, I always like to try to get out there and see what's happening out there
Yeah.
and just try to have some kind of takeaway so I can be like, wow, I got to visit like Norway and like I went to these, amazing old churches there, or anywhere in Europe. I mean, there's just so much beautiful architecture. So, um, yeah, the whole vibe I love. And then, yeah, meeting fans that are like super appreciative of your music and like, you can tell that they just like love your shit and it really impacts them in a unique way. Um, it's uh it's a great lifestyles.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I'm very much like I want to go see and do all the shit and drink all the beers and smoke all the different weeds across the world and all that stuff. And yeah, Europe was incredible, man. Just like seeing castles and like just shit that I'm from Miami, Florida, I fucking never would have been able to do otherwise.
Right.
So really try and be as appreciative as I can, and then also even more so, now in a time like this where it's just like this shit's not forever. Like something could happen where the thing that we love most to do in the world is just like taken away from us out of nowhere.
Right.
So really, I'm wondering if like I will say I'm sure we all have toured with the jaded guys who've been doing it for a while, and it's just like a job, and they are pissed off about one thing or another every day. Hopefully that like kind of shakes some of those guys a little bit. Like, hey, we're doing some cool shit, man.
Right, yeah, it's good to have those moments on tour. Like, I love when I can just get away and like, cruise around just myself and like,
Yep.
yeah, just really kind of be in the moment, and feel it like, wow, like I can't believe like death metal has brought me, to Colombia, South America, and like,
Yeah.
Mexico or Europe or, wherever. I mean, we did that cruise and we were in Haiti, like I
Oh
couldn't
man.
like believe like death metal, like it brings you to all corners of the world. So I never want to lose sight of that. I always want to try to like take those moments, even if they don't happen every day because you don't get the opportunity to or whatever. But
Yeah.
like just to embrace that and just to be so like appreciative of other cultures, the world around you, and then how lucky we are to be able to get to do that. Of course, there's tons of work that goes into it to
Oh yeah.
get there, not
Yep.
just luck, but it really is. It's very humbling to be, just to be able to get to have these experiences and just be like, wow, like this is like fucking amazing. I can't believe I'm in some like 1,000-year-old church right now or something.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that translates. Hearing you say that, I feel like it translates to your live show. Like you guys, and I heard it from you've come up a few times on the podcast. So I heard it from Alan from Black Dahlia. I heard it from Zach from Whitechapel, where it's like you guys have so much fucking fun on stage. Obviously, I've seen you a bunch of times. First time I saw you guys, we played together at the New England Metal Fest pre-party. It was like 2013, I think.
Uh, yeah.
And I was just like, how the fuck does a band have so much fun on stage, but then also like nail all the parts like they're doing? Like, I was like, I need to figure out how to do this. Like, this is what people pay to see. People don't pay to just see you stand around and like nail note for note, but people also don't pay to see you jump around and not play your songs. So
Right, right.
it was very inspirational. Something to aspire to for sure, to like see you guys just like have so much fun, but fucking kill it too.
Thank you so much. That's such a great compliment. Yeah, I think it's just the joy of performing. It's just kind of like I think infectious throughout the whole band, and when we're all on stage and like really really genuinely vibing it out. Uh, I think when I'm in that zone, I can't control the faces that I'm making or like it just brings out like a different sort of side of you, right? It's primal, it's animalistic, it's
Yeah.
all these different things, but it's kind of getting to that core like deep down. And yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky to be able to share music that I'm very passionate about, to do what I love, to share that with other people of all different cultures and all different sort of walks of life. And the thing that connects us all is music, and it's such a palpable feeling for me that when I'm on stage, it just comes out.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring a lot of folks like myself, young guitar players. I'm sure even guys that have been doing it for a while and are just like, okay, I gotta step my game up. So, so I appreciate it. So last thing I will bug you about before you head out is for the Big Shred podcast artist playlist. So what are you jamming during quarantine? What's on your
Sure.
playlist?
Yeah, I've been listening to like actually a bunch of like like jazz and stuff like that, but some metal too. I would say check out Near Felder has got a new record coming out. He just released a track. I think it's called Fires in August. So check out that new Near Felder track. It's super sick. He's just a deadly assassin on the guitar. Kurt Rosenwinkel trio just put out a new record that's really great. Definitely, been listening to a lot of new stuff, but also going back to older stuff as well. So I've been listening to Wes Montgomery,
Nice.
Boss Guitar. Um, I transcribed one of the solos off that record. It's just like such beautiful music. He was just such an incredible guitar player, and all these years later, he's still just one of the most amazing uh, players to ever pick up the guitar.
Yeah.
Charlie Parker, John Coltrane. They've put out so many records, but like I would say like if
Yep.
you're listening to like Bird, like check out like the Dial Savoy sessions. It's like all of his sort of like singles like kind of all in one place. Um, for Coltrane, Coltrane Sounds, a great record, or Lush Life. Um, Miles Davis, listen to Bags Groove, as well as like Milestones. Um, and then like as far as like death metal goes, I've been working with Luke obviously, so I've been listening to some Gorguts and
Nice.
From Wisdom to Hate, obviously such a great record, super forward thinking. Um, what else I've been checking out as far as metal goes? Oh, you know what? I've been revisiting like early Arch Enemy records. So like,
Oh, nice.
uh, yeah, like Stigmata and Burning Bridges. Like, I love both those records. And I don't know. I was just in this weird nostalgic mood, but I was like looking up like early like 1990s like Arch Enemy like video live footage. Like it was
Yeah.
like they're concerted in Japan. And it's just like super sick. It's like the video's all grainy, but like I just didn't even care. I was just like
Yeah.
so into it. Uh, and then because when I was teaching a lesson, just like talking about like groove and stuff, and I think Meshuggah are always like a great band to talk about like displacement and like feeling a solid groove, but like having something like a longer repeating phrase over the top of that kind of interlocks with it, like this weird sort of puzzle that takes like 4 bars to cycle back around. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be talking about like a teaching concept and bring up a band to sort of illustrate a point, and then I'll be like the lesson will be over. I'm like, oh fuck, I got to listen to like some Meshuggah right now or whatever band I'm talking about. So I've been listening to Meshuggah, New Millennium Cyanide Christ. You can throw that up on the thing,
Whew.
classic song off of Chaos Sphere. Yeah, so that's a whole bunch of stuff right there for you.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I'm excited to dig into some of that myself. More so like the jazz guitar players. That same thing. Like I haven't listened to in forever, and it's like, no, I should probably listen back on that. So, um,
Check out Lage Lund's new record too, Terrible Animals. That's really sick.
okay, killer. Well, Dave, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I am also gonna hold you to what we were talking about in the beginning, and I am gonna reach out to you for a lesson. So, if
Oh,
yeah, we'll get on that. I'll hit you up. If you are looking for a guitar lesson from Dave Davidson, where again can they shoot you an email?
sure. Davidsonlessons at gmail.com, or my email is on my Instagram, David.Davidson. And then keep your eye out, DaveDavidsonGuitar.com. It's not published yet, but working towards it. Hopefully, like in the next couple of weeks, I'll make an announcement about that, and you'll be able to kind of book lessons with me directly through my website. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. The questions were great, and it's always cool to talk to a fellow musician. Especially one of your caliber and someone
Oh
that's been
man.
in the touring world and writes music and all that kind of stuff. It's always nice to talk to other like-minded musicians. I feel like the questions are always really good, and the dialogues are always super fun because we can kind of riff off of each other. So thank you for the interview, man.
Yeah, well, that means the world, man. Thank you so much again for coming on. Again, go check out Revocation, check out Gargoyle, keep an eye out. Hopefully, maybe who knows for a fall release from Dave's band Gargoyle. And again, thanks so much for coming on, man. I will catch up with you soon.
Take care, man.
All right, you too, brother.
Bye.
Later. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for hanging during Dave Davidson's interview. Had a great chat with Dave, and again, his chat along with our next guest will be up on YouTube if you didn't catch all of it or you're just joining us right now. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our next guest of the night who's been super patiently waiting in the digital wings, Dan Sugarman. Dan, how the hell are you, bud? Oh, you're muted, my dude.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Don't worry about it. Literally, it happens to every single person.
I'm certain that I'm doing well, man. I caught quite a bit of that last interview. Dave is fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah. I hadn't really like I've like briefly. It's pretty much like everybody in the touring game that like knows each other, right? Like if you're not on a tour together, you've like talked for 20 minutes, but you haven't like really gotten to have a talk, unless
Yeah,
you've like been on a tour with somebody.
yeah, yeah.
So that's like my favorite, or one of my favorite parts about doing this is like being able to like really catch up with somebody and like getting to the nitty gritty about stuff. So
Truly, dude, it's an honor to be here, man. I'm stoked to be able to do this with you.
yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Following Dave Davidson is kind of a terrifying thing, so let's see
Oh,
what we can do here.
no way, man. Like you are holding your own, I'm sure, better than you know.
Not even, man. It's all an illusion.
Well, if again, if you don't know, this is Dan Sugarman. He just released a solo album. Dan is a phenomenal guitar player. He also plays in the band Ice Nine Kills. Definitely check them out if you haven't. So, Dan, how has quarantine been treating you? What have you been up to during all this shit, man?
It's been interesting, dude. The quarantine really kicked Ice Nine Kills in the balls. We were on tour in Europe with Papa Roach and Hollywood Undead on a very large tour. It was the biggest tour I'd been a part of so far in my life. And it got cut short due to coronavirus. The last 2 weeks were canceled, and we come home early. And I'm like, all right, cool. That gives me 2 more weeks to pack up my house in Austin so I can move back to Los Angeles, where I'm from,
Ugh.
in order to start our Five Finger Death Punch tour. And then all of a sudden I find out that that's canceled. And then all of a sudden I find out that getting between borders or in between states is a challenge. So I was stuck in Austin, Texas for a little bit. I'm finally at my new house in Los Angeles. So that was a big part of what was going on, was just getting the move handled. But otherwise, dude, I've been keeping really, really busy with private lessons. As you mentioned before, I just released my new record, Inside Out Part 1, which has been getting such an awesome reception. I'm so stoked on that. I'm honestly, like, to have anyone say anything about it is beyond what I expected. So the fact that it's been all awesome is incredibly cool. I just launched something called Sugarman's Lesson Lounge. It's like a free online guitar community that I'm hosting through several different platforms. So you can go get in on that at dansugarman.com/lesson lounge. But yeah, dude, I've just been keeping busy with launching stuff. I have a new podcast that I'm going to be launching soon.
Yeah.
The premise of that, it's called Mindframe. Premise will be like, did you ever catch what I did a couple years ago, Ever Fret TV?
I did. I caught a couple episodes after you and I caught up, and I took a look. It was super cool.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna be doing that. The premise of that was basically like, if you could sit down with some of your favorite artists and ask them a question to gain some insight that was like actionable for you to use on your end.
Yeah.
What type of questions would those be? So it's pretty similar to this, but I'm gonna have fun just interviewing a lot of the same people you will, and I'll just ask other outside the box questions like you do. It'll be fun.
That's awesome. Please let me know. Keep me in the loop when you get that rolling, and I for sure will check it out and push the shit out of it, and however I can help. Oh, dude, I'd love to. Oh, please, killer, yeah. Awesome, man. So yeah, Inside Out, like I was letting you know before, I was jamming it today. So Inside Out Part 1, which makes me excited because that means Part 2 is coming. So because 6 songs, am I right?
Yeah.
6 tracks, and dude, it was a heavy album. So I know I've been following you obviously on your socials and kind of keeping up with the whole release of everything, and I know it was based a lot around the feelings you were having dealing with the passing of your mother, which again, my condolences on that, man. I can't imagine what you were going through then, but I'm really glad that you decided to put this album out. I know it wasn't easy for you. So if you want to talk a little bit about that and what kind of how the release has been feeling for you in that vein.
Well, I mean, considering what the album was kind of born out of, to finally release this record, like the word release is so profound on so many fucking levels, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I feel such a release having this record come out and just be like out in the world finally.
Right.
It was originally written 3 years ago in the months leading up to my mom passing away from brain cancer. She was fighting for over 10 years.
Wow.
She was such a fucking fighter, dude. She was in like the 0.1 percentile of survivors. She had the glioblastoma, which is like a very deadly one.
Oh my gosh.
And she'd survived for 9 years longer than they said she would live, and every single year that she get past the 1 year was like a fucking miracle. She had 2 brain surgeries over that time, and mind you, I'm in As Blood Runs Black this entire time. She had 2 surgeries to remove tumors, They were successful.
Wow.
She went to remission, and it was just like these amazing miracles that kept happening and giving us more time together. And I'm selfishly on the road with As Blood Runs Black, seeking some kind of like something. I don't even know what it was compared to, you know, the love and affection from my own mother, which I was clearly neglecting. So basically, like, it came to a point where As Blood Runs Black had just put out the last record, Ground Zero. I think this was in like early 2016, and I wrote majority of that, and it was a very, very, very heavy process. We got robbed during the recording of it. We were at Zach Owen's studio in Oakland, and our car got broken. We just finished literally everything, and we packed our car with all shit and went across the street to go watch the Art and Volumes perform. And we got back, the car was busted into, and everything was gone. So like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, man, that record was riddled with just like trauma. And then we go out and tour that record, and literally the day that we play the last show at Chain Reaction Anaheim, hometown show, my girlfriend she drives my car to the show. She parks it. We're stoked. We go get some dinner and all this shit. And during the show, my car's towed. It cost me $700 to get that out. And as I'm getting it towed or taken out of the tow lot, I get a call from my dad that my mom's third brain tumor came back.
Oh, man.
And it was just like, boom, 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 fuck you. So I'm just sitting there like, all right. So I basically let the guys know that I was going to be leaving the band, and we had a big meeting about it, and it was the right idea. It was the right choice at the time. And I made the choice to stay at home and help take care of my mom. And I did that for about two and a half, 3 years. And it was the hardest shit ever, man. Being there for that shit, it got really bad, man. She had a stroke and was paralyzed and unable to speak for over a year. Oh, so it was very, very challenging to be around. And when that happened, that's actually a pretty decent segue. When that happened, she was no longer able to get upstairs to her bedroom. So we made the choice that my bedroom and studio would be converted into her bedroom, so she didn't have to go upstairs. And that's the record that's the room that I wrote Center Sun in, which is the first record I wrote. And this was also a journaling of my mom's other brain tumor arriving. And it was just really fucked me up. So I wrote that record there. And my mom's bed where she passed away in was in the exact same spot where I wrote that record. And then I wrote Inside Out in the exact same spot in her bedroom where she slept for 28 years. You know what I mean? So there's like this weird parallel portal situation shit that I don't really know what it is. I don't know what it means, but it's definitely like this weird thing that I'm like, I have goosebumps just talking about it. It's a weird,
me too, man. Jesus.
It's a very, very weird thing, dude. So like I tapped into something fucked up there for sure. And during the last song, The Art of Knowing, she passed away during it. And a few days after, I decided to complete the leads and like the orchestration and all the stuff in the background. So that song particularly has like a bit of both emotions in it. So it's especially hard to look at.
Yeah.
And when that occurred, I was like, that whole entire record was designed around my mad scientist idea of taking Patreon and using it as a way to release music. So in 2016 or so, I was doing this thing that I was calling the Living Album, where I was releasing one song per month with a bunch of different perks, and that came along with like tabs and interviews of my collaborators and stems for sessions and all these things. And I'm actually going to be doing that for part 2. Thank you for mentioning that before. So that will be something that I reignite. But I was doing that on there, and wow, that tangent just fucked me up. But yeah, I was doing all of my stuff on Patreon, and after I got to the end of the record, I just couldn't. The point of the Patreon was to use the money I raised to fund the actual release publicly, and I just couldn't bring myself to do that. Luckily, I saved all of that, and I was able to use all of it to get my stuff going now, which was very freaking helpful. But yeah, man, after The Art of Knowing was written and recorded, I couldn't get the album completed. I just couldn't listen to the fucking songs. So after joining Ice Nine Kills in 2019 and getting back on the road after literally swearing off touring, it became my enemy. Like, I had to teach myself to dislike it so that I could be okay with staying at home.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, I found myself just quote unquote hating it. I think, like, looking back on it now, I feel like I was just telling myself I hated it.
Right.
But the second the second that I got the invite to join Ice Nine Kills, and the second I stepped on stage, I was like, holy shit, this is what I've always been meant to be doing, you know? And it was an epiphany for me to realize that, like, being on stage and sharing that moment and connection with people is what the fuck I'm here for. And the thing that I noticed immediately with Ice Nine Kills, and this is a very interesting thing about the demographic, it literally ranges from 3-year-olds to 63-year-olds. I've never seen a band that has this shit, dude. It's super weird. But everyone who likes the band, and I'm trying to find the best way to say this without being fucked up, but everyone who likes the band has gone through struggles in their own life. They're all, you know, the outcasts. They're all the people who are, you know, deemed some other or whatever, you know what I mean? And like they come together and find community in Ice Nine Kills. And the second that I realized that I'm not the only person that have lost my mother, I'm not the only person that have lost someone I care for.
Right.
Like all of these people come to these shows to listen to this music for a release for medicine. Like I'm potentially, and this isn't to like big up myself, but I'm potentially like starving someone who may need to hear this record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just hit me that like that's what I'm here for. It reminded me why I make music, why I do what I do, and that's really what was the catalyst for me to be here today, having released the record, be back on the road, be active again as a songwriter. I mean, things are happening on the background too that are very exciting. But yeah, man, it's been great, and I'm super stoked.
That's killer, man. So, I mean, I just want to say that it's admirable, you know, what the sacrifices that you did make for your mom. You know, it's when we do this, it's very like, in my experience anyway, it's like all or nothing, right? Like you kind of expect to, well, I'm going to miss the birthdays and I'm going to miss the anniversaries and I'm not going to be around for Thanksgiving and I might miss Christmas and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to pull yourself out of that, especially if you're so passionate about it. And it's also difficult to, and a lot of people don't get it sometimes, like to deal with the guilt of doing what we do, which it's multifaceted, right? So like in your situation, you had a sick family member, you know, even just like the regular everyday, like I get to do what I love to do while someone else in my family, a loved one, whatever, has to struggle to get up every day and do something that they hate. Why me? Why do I get to do this and they don't? Like there's so much that you have to like rationalize in your head to do this, and when you're having to like sacrifice these kinds of relationships and things that you have. So it's and then people, you know, quit touring, and then there's people like, oh, why did they do that, you know? And you can kind of see that there's not really an understanding behind it.
Yeah, dude. Chasing after your dreams is like a selfish pursuit, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like
Right.
Success of any kind, of whatever the fuck that means to you, is not something that's easily achieved, and a lot of times you have to like cut the fat to get there. And a lot of things and people, you know, activities you used to love, like sometimes those things are deemed the fat, and that kind of fucking sucks. But I'm very lucky to have come from a family that was so supportive in that, and taught me that exact lesson. Like my dad was an all or nothing kind of guy. He worked so fucking hard that he had a heart attack when I was 13. Motherfucker worked himself to the fucking grave almost.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
what did he do?
He's started several different business. He's in erosion control.
Okay.
He sells like sandbags and like, you know, like the orange mesh fence around construction sites.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen like the hay like tubes around like construction sites or up like mud hills?
Yep.
Like all of that weird shit that you just see, like that you don't ever think of. Like that's
Right.
my dad.
Nice.
He's the burlap king of the West Coast.
The burlap king. That's awesome.
So yeah, he's been doing that since he was like in his 20s. It's actually like a multi-generational family business that I could give a fuck about.
Yeah. Come on, you don't want to sell burlap, dude? Like
yeah, no, I'm good. I'm gonna not do that for no, but I mean like yeah, I'm just very lucky in the fact that like my family was very supportive of those decisions early on. Like, dude, My dad, I remember this thing like it was fucking yesterday, and I only started talking about this recently because it was just like came up from a question.
Yeah.
But when I was like 14 or something like that, uh, maybe I think no, I was 15 because I was a freshman in high school. I had just joined my first band, Fallen Figure, and it was our first show at no, it wasn't Showcase Theater. It was the Alley in
Okay.
Fullerton. Holy shit, I can't believe I remember this. This is like 15 years ago. And I get there to the show and I'm fucking freaking out. And I call my dad, literally crying. I'm like 14, 15 years old. I'm like,
Oh,
Dad,
man.
like I can't do this. This is my first show. I can't do it. And he's like, Dan, like if you make me drive 30 fucking minutes to pick you up, like fuck you first of all. But he's basically saying like, if you don't do this one show, you'll never know what guitar would be for you.
Yeah.
You'll never know if you wanted to do this. And I was like, fuck, all right, I'll push through this. And like, here we are today, like 15 plus years later. Like, it's insane. My family pushed me so hard into it. Like, I got my first guitar for my bar mitzvah when I was 13 when I became a Jewish man. You know
That's
what I'm
so
saying?
sick.
Yeah, dude, I got a Gibson SG from all my Jewish
What?
uncles. They just threw down hard.
Yo, that's a
I'm
first
going,
guitar, dude.
right? And I'm like, all right, if I don't commit and become pretty tight, like I failed. So
Well, everybody who was at that bar mitzvah should be feeling pretty good right now.
it's a good time, man. It's a good time. But yeah, it's a selfish pursuit for sure. And one of the things that I've done over the course of the years is try to reprogram myself to find ways to be selfless
Yeah.
with it. You know, like I spend a lot of my time, and this sounds like this is nothing I never would ever fucking say about As Blood Runs Black, just because the situation never presented itself. But like,
Yep.
Ice Nine Kills is doing like 100 plus people a night VIPs, like insane, ridiculous VIP sessions, right? And people are paying like $100+ for these things.
Wow.
And it's like a ravenous situation, and they cap out at 100 usually. And there's tons of people who just want to like see us, get shit signed, take photos, and I'll spend time every day just walking around and doing that because like my belief, and I've been saying this for the past like year, remove the fucking barricade. That thing does not need to be a part of your mind or like an invisible security guard around you when you're at a show. Like I hate seeing musicians who live in that mentality. And like, granted, it didn't exist at all in Fallen Figure.
Yeah.
It reared its ugly ass head a little bit in As Blood Runs Black, and I see it all the time at the Ice Nine Kills level. And it's like, I mean, now we just had a Five Finger Death Punch tour canceled. You know what I mean? Like we were literally going to play the Forum in Los Angeles, where I saw the Lakers when I was a kid.
Ah, damn.
It's like it's shit that's like at this level, bands have a bus per band member. Their crew has their own bus. There's like
Yep.
insane things going on.
Your bus is coming, Dan. I can feel it, dude.
What was that?
Say your bus is coming. I can feel it.
Yeah, it'll be like a fucking VW bus on the vegetable. It'll be some janky shit. No, but it's just there's just different heads to deal with, and it's just nuts to just see what's going on, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know Fallen Figure was your first band. So kind of like I was telling you a little bit before, this has to be 2010 or 11 or something like that. Which I'm not sure if you were in the band still or not, but I was as I am right now, like still running the Abiotic train and cold messaging just all the people. It's just what we do. If you want to be in a band, just message everyone. No, I'm just kidding. Don't bother.
No, it's yeah.
Yeah, but so I heard you guys were sick, and I was like, oh, we're kind of like trying to start to play shows and shit like that, and like I wish I could go back to the messages. I'm sure I could. I feel like I was talking to your vocalist, but I'm not 100% sure. But we were talking about doing shows, and like nothing ever happened. But in like the Miami local scene, your guys' name was getting thrown around. Like I have a buddy who saw that I was going to be interviewing you, and he was like, "Hey, ask him if like Fallen Figure's gonna come back."
Dude, that whole thing was such a fucking ridiculous ride. Like, Fallen Figure was my baby, and it didn't start as that. Like I mentioned,
Yeah.
I auditioned for the band as a freshman. It was a band run by a bunch of juniors,
Oh wow.
and when I became a sophomore, they were like, "Hey man, this is our senior year. We really don't give a shit. Like you're clearly the only one who's like booking shows and writing stuff and all this shit. Just have the band. Like we're going to college. Just take the name, do your thing, go find members." And I go online, go on to Craigslist, go on to MySpace, and I start piecing together this band. And it was just such a ridiculous thing, man. I don't know how it all came together, but we wound up doing a full length called Divival that I wrote when I was like 15, 16.
Wow.
You know, just ridiculous, over the top technical death metal.
Yep.
And it got to a point where like we had some movement, some action going on. We had some real heavy hitters interested in us. There was a moment where As Blood Runs Black's drummer, or As Blood Runs Black kicked out their drummer. That's Lech. Lech heard Fallen Figure and then started managing us as As Blood Runs Black drummer, and we're like, "Oh,
wow.
Dude, that's tight. That's gonna help us get a show." Right? So, and then all of a sudden, like he's around and doing things, and we start getting interest. Brian Slagle hits me up directly on MySpace.
Word?
Yeah, and he's like, "Yo, like we've been watching you guys for a while. We've come to a couple of your shows and not said anything. We want to push you guys like super fucking hard." And I look back at this now. I mean, I'm gonna like chuck a dart at a wall and paint a target around it years later. But it seems like now that deal was sabotaged because Lech was planning on asking me to join As Blood Runs Black, because soon after we declined Metal Blade, I was asked to join ABR.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
So I mean, it's whatever, dude. Because
Yeah.
I got, it's all
Part of the
shit
journey.
that
Part of the
happened.
journey. Yeah.
But apparently, Whitechapel got the deal that Fallen Figure was like being discussed with.
What the
So-
fuck?
It was one of those things where it was just like, oh, all right, now I'm in As Blood Runs Black, playing
Oh,
other guys.
man.
But
Well, we were also signed to Metal Blade, and we're us. So don't beat yourself up.
but I mean, it's one of those who would have known things, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Fair.
Was she the one? Like, would we have gotten married? Like,
Yep.
who knows, dude? But I'm not. I don't regret shit, man. I don't tend to do that. I'm very happy that I was able to join As Blood Runs Black and have like 8+ years of ridiculous international touring and
Yeah.
doing like Summer Slaughter tour, which was always a dream. Playing like Indonesia, Japan, China, Russia, South America, all these ridiculous places that I never in my wildest imagination would have thought.
Yeah.
I fucking, yo, dude, like, we'll fly you out if you play this piece of wood with metal wires on it. What the fuck are you talking about?
All right.
I'll be there. I'll sit in the seat for 8 hours if that's how long the flight is.
Fuck
Whatever
yeah.
it is.
Dude,
But,
that's so sick. I didn't even realize you were in As Blood Runs Black for that long. That's fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, dude. I was in the band for longer than what's known too, because I was guest writing some stuff, guest writing some solos. Ghost writing is what I mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was ghost writing some stuff from outside the band, and I was preparing stuff for several different other guitar players to be the lead guitar player. There's one dude who was supposed to be in the band. I don't know if you remember this guy. It was a YouTube guy who disappeared named Voice Gajic.
I don't think so. No.
He's just sick as shit on YouTube. He actually flew out from Canada to join As Blood Runs Black, and I had to teach him all the
Wow.
parts. And I was like a hired gun by As Blood Runs Black. I was still doing Fallen Figure, but I was like just helping them get the record done for Instinct. And I think he like packed his bags and left the next morning.
Jeez.
Yeah, he was like, fuck this. He just saw the way that like the inner workings of the band was, and he just got his shit and left. And I was like, all right, well, I'll continue to play this shit with you guys. And then I was playing with Nita Strauss for a while.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, she was in As Blood Runs Black with me for probably a little less than a year.
Are you serious? She was in As Blood Runs Black? Dude,
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
everyone was in As Blood Runs Black. Like,
You have no idea.
I need to go check. Do I have a Wikipedia so I can check and see like if I was in As Blood Runs Black and I don't remember or something? Like,
You might have been. Amnesia was pretty big that year.
Nita's so sick.
Yeah, she's fucking awesome, dude. We like ran into each other at NAMM recently and was just like, what what the fuck? What, you still? It was awesome, man. It's good to see her. But yeah, dude, just the way that everything kind of connects and plays out. Like I don't, like I was saying, I don't regret shit, and everything works out the way it was supposed to. I found myself, in 2018, living in Austin, Texas, alone in a huge house after a failed business, and a bunch of different failed things happened, which is why I moved there. And I found myself in the most depressive state I've ever been, with such bad anxiety that I couldn't leave my house without passing out.
Oh
Literally.
man.
Yeah, like it was fucking insane. So like to go from that to finding a few things like several different meditations, like Wim Hof method was very helpful for me. Several different things, because I was in a situation where healthcare, the healthcare marketplace just kept fucking me over and wouldn't get me health insurance, so I couldn't see a therapist to talk about shit. Like I was just literally alone dealing with this shit. So I found some stuff and pulled myself out of a hole, and that preparation put me in a situation where I was the right person in the right place at the right time to join Ice Nine Kills, and here we are today, talking about it and still doing the shit, man. Like I literally wouldn't have been on the scene at all had I not like been reinvigorated by all of this shit, for sure.
That's so awesome, dude. And it's and it's awesome to see you being so transparent about all of it too, and like open and vulnerable, and to see that like in your music, and to hear it in your music, because like I was mentioning before on Inside Out, you can hear it. It's like, I'm gonna steal a word from Dave, but it's palpable in the songs, the melodies, and just like I could hear it, like, and I don't know if it's because I heard you talking about it before, but I could like I felt it in these songs, and it's like it was emotional, like Guthrie is what it was for me. Like I hear the Guthrie, but it's so there's so much emotion behind it too, and it's super tasteful, which is I know that's what I'm like striving to do with my lead playing, like every single day. So it's super super tasteful, and I'm like I can't say enough good things about the album, man. It's so sick.
Dude, thank you so much. Trying not to have a tear come to my eye right now. It's all I've ever wanted, dude, was to be able to express myself musically, and like music is a beautiful place to be able to like do that shit without words. And going through anything as challenging as like what I did particularly here, or anything that happens in anyone's life in any given day, a lot of times you don't have fucking words for it, and music is a fantastic way to dig deep and get that shit out of you in ways that you didn't know you could. And I feel like the creation process was a little bit of that. Releasing it exclusively to my Patreon people 3 years ago was a little bit of that. And then the big fucking release, the big cum shot is now. It's really what it is. And I'm sitting here going, I gotta fucking be a little bit more myself. I'm getting too emotional. So then I just said cum shot to feel good.
No, but you're doing a lot more than maybe I would, or a lot of people, and it's as men, as guys in the music industry, like touring guys, like you don't get a lot of that, right? Like we're all just supposed to be like, we're either like the jaded old metal guy that is like fucking too cool for school, or like you have to be like faultless, like you can't look like you're struggling, because then oh no, they're struggling, what's going on with his band, what's going on with him, or is the band good, is the band like, there's all these things that you have to like kind of try and hide with this stuff, but to see you flip that on its side and just make it open and known, and the force for what you're doing, I think is gonna like pay dividends for you in the long run, and it's also because you're doing it from the heart,
Man, it all comes back to the remove the barricade concept, dude.
Yeah.
Like for me, I feel like the age and era of the hooded frontman enigma who is like only in the shadows, like, dude, if you're not Maynard or like Papa Emeritus from Ghost, like I don't want to see any of this mystery. I think social media has completely busted the doors down to where like you can't fake cool, you can't fake something without it being totally seen as fake.
Yep.
And I'm tired as fuck of being on tour with people and watching them like act like something in front of people, and then like close the van door, bus door, whatever, and then just be completely different. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see a through line and a continuity, so to speak, between, you know, who you are on stage and off stage. And I want to be able to let people know that, like, on the other side of the proverbial barricade is no one any different than them. They just were in a place that, like, they're put on a fucking piece of wood that's 6 inches higher. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, this shit really doesn't fucking matter, man. It's like, it's a platform that I feel like is used and abused in a lot of ways. And I also feel like there's a lot of ways that you could shift your perspective to use it for good. Like, what's really interesting, man, is I left Fallen Figure after recording a record that was about all of the evils of mankind manifesting into a being that destroyed the earth. Like, that was this whole theme for the album.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, I go out with As Blood Runs Black. I do a tour on some Allegiance shit to start writing for Instinct, and I realize this is like I'm actually anti-religion, but this is like a congregation of willing and receptive members who, like, it's a fucking, you're preaching to a mass, right? Like there's an actual energetic exchange there that's happening, to where when you have like an audience say like fuck God, or whatever the fuck that means to anybody, like, I could give a fuck about religion, but like that fuck God thing, like, to me translates to like fuck love, and like I don't vibe with that, right? So like seeing like bands do that and watching the whole crowd get charged with that energy and walk away with that feeling, like, that's a responsibility that falls on the musician. So I, when tasked with writing all of the lyrics for Instinct, wrote the most overly positive shit in the world, like, so like, self-empowering, like, I believe in myself, I'll overcome, like, all this bullshit cheesy like throwback hardcore stuff, but I was trying to bring it into like a deathcore realm, with some actual decent messages mixed in with just like the generic. But the result was insane, dude. Like, I hate that this occurred, but hundreds of people hit me up saying that they didn't commit suicide because of lyrics on that record.
Wow.
I recall countless times like talking someone from a gun to their head. They would like send me a message and be like, "Hey man, I'm listening to your album right now with a gun to my head and I don't know what to do."
Holy shit.
Like, yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And this is the burden, this is the torch that musicians carry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, that's the responsibility that we all fucking have, and it's very easy to play with that fire and fuck some shit up, burn some shit down. You could cook a great meal with that shit too. Like, it depends on what you want to do with it. But I'm in a situation where after Fallen Figure was like, that's dark shit. Like, I want to do super positive. And then I focused on my solo career between leaving As Blood Runs Black to do this uber just like dumping of my fucking heart and mind, while simultaneously being in the most over-the-top satanic horror murdering misogynistic band of all time.
Right.
Like, straight the fuck up. Chris Nightingale is so campy, over the top with this shit that like I live with this knowledge every day that like it is a job and it's hilarious to everyone in the band, and I know that we know that it's a joke.
Right.
And I also live with like the whole like, well, what is this doing? What is the like legacy of this shit? So like, this is something that I live with, and I don't feel like it's like anything that's wrong or right to consider, but like, yeah, man, I definitely feel like the positives that Ice Nine Kills has on people, though, based on what I was saying before, it's a community of people that are drawn together because they've struggled and shit like that. And the community of people that are into this shit are like the horror fanatics. Yeah. And those people are fucking weird and love blood and gore. like talking about decapitations of some chick doesn't bother them, and that's comfort food.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah, I mean, that was like it's funny though, because that was like a thing when As Blood Runs Black, I feel like we're at the height of, like, when you guys were at the height of popularity, where most bands were kind of talking about that in some form or fashion. Like, one that sticks out to me when I was listening to As Blood Runs Black and like finding similar music was like Hester Prynne. I don't know if you guys toured with that band, or if you like remember that band, but they had like that.
Oh, that was the East Coast band, right?
I believe so. Yep. They were called, or they put out an album called like the Goswell Divorce. That was like very I
remember them.
Graphic like that and stuff. And but back to your point, I mean, I think I think it's double edged, right? Because like in the same token that we need all this positivity, like it in a time where it's not very like commonly found. I think people into the kind of music, death metal, and like all that stuff that we're into as well, are looking for that kind of like fuck God, because like no one else is I'm like the black sheep in my family and no one else is saying it, and I'm in a group of people that are saying it and it feels good, and like so I think it has that aspect to it where it becomes a positive thing, but then I can also certainly see like where you're saying that it's like it's not necessarily the message. It could be reinforcing not great thoughts.
Not necessarily, dude. Like at the end of the day, like the types of things like death metal and like shit like I do with Ice Nine Kills, that comes down to entertainment
Yeah.
and an experience.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like not everyone going to those shows is there for the message. The message tends to just be a byproduct of it. But like, you know, like obviously it's been proven to be bullshit. But like the whole Charlie Manson, like hearing the Helter Skelter made him do it. Fucking,
Right.
you know, there's so much influential things that are going on subconsciously with music that are on so many like frequencies and layers that like I don't understand, you know, like all these weird sounds that exist at different frequencies and ranges come together to create some like beautiful, round, full, rhythmic, melodic, like what the fuck, dude? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what kind of like subliminal shit we're being programmed with when we hear anything.
Yeah.
All I'm really saying is that like an awareness for me was born and it made me want to be real with my own shit.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and it's an interesting thing to like really think about in regards to like our responsibility as musicians and as artists, and you know it's a big reason why like the next Abiotic album isn't going to be like about space and shit, because like we got tired of writing about like nothing and wanted to like make the next album real, right? And so the next album is going to be very inward reflections, very mental health oriented. We're going to tell a lot of stories similarly to some stories that you know you were saying, where fans that have reached out to us and have said like, hey, like I'm going through this is something that happened to me. We had a song, you know, that we wrote for a buddy who lost his wife to an opioid overdose, and what that was like for him. And he actually, his voice is on the song talking about what happened, and that's way more, in my opinion. It's you can connect with that more, and I think when you're playing music that like we play, which is, you know, fucking chaotic and blast beats and whatever, it's like we're trying. You got to try and connect with people somehow.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about what's put into the music. Like that's what's read on the other side. Like I'm weird, man. I have all these weird outside perspectives. You and I both love weed, so this totally makes sense.
Yep.
But I'm a firm believer, dude, that like when you're writing and creating a song, you're like imprinting yourself into this shit.
Yeah.
So much so, because it's literally just like a stamp, a time capsule of like you documenting whatever the fuck happened in that moment, right?
Yep.
And then you put that song out, and when someone else hears it on the other side, that song becomes a mirror that reflects themselves, and it gives them an opportunity to like learn some shit, understand some stuff, feel like they're not alone, get some kind of frustration out. Like it becomes this very interesting thing. It's almost like a bait, that like an energetic bait. Every person that has ever really been into the music that like I put out and makes an effort to like reach out to me and connect with me, there's always a friendship that's created. There's always like a back and forth of like lessons that need to be learned from each other, shit that's shared. Like there's a reason why music connects people together. You know what I mean? There's a reason why like your best group of friends you probably met at like some shows. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it bonds people, man, and there's something to be said about that. And it's a part of the responsibility that we have as musicians to like be mindful of the ingredients we use, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. I definitely agree there. And it's music or weed, right? That's letting you meet the best people. Oh yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Kiesel, man. So what drew you to Kiesel, and how did that relationship start? You've got some like beautiful fucking guitars, man.
Thank you, dude. The Kiesel relationship, honestly, like all things in my life are kismet, like destiny things that just occurred, like that I have no reason to rhyme as to why or how they happened. But
Yeah.
I had a I don't want to bash other companies. So I was with a company that's a very well-known company
Yeah.
for many years with this Blood Runs Black. And there was this one day where we had been waiting for our guitars to be repaired for fucking months.
Wow.
And we literally just drove to the factory. We're like, hey, we leave for tour like next week. We really just need to pick up our guitars and go. And the head guitar tech hands me Jeff Hanneman's guitars. Like, here you go, dude. Like, sorry about that. And I'm like, bro, Jeff Hanneman just died this week. Like, you're really handing me Jeff Hanneman from Slayer's guitar like you think I'm Jeff Hanneman from Slayer, the dead guy?
Whoa.
And I just left the ESP. I was like, all right, like I don't want to be a part of this shit. Like I'm good. Oh, I just said the company. That was bad.
You said it without saying it, but it's fine.
Oh yeah. No one doesn't know that Jeff Hanneman was all right. Whatever. So yeah, that was mind-boggling to me. I was just like,
That's
the
that's fucking
disrespect
crazy.
there. Like that was one of their like top 3 guys. Like for that to happen to me was just like, who do you think I am?
Yeah.
Like
No, that's
janitor? Like what the fuck?
that'll rub me the wrong way too.
Yeah, and that was also right after waiting for months to get like a setup done, which should take them like a day.
Right.
And then I went to another company after that I was with for a while, and it was a pretty solid relationship. They hooked it up pretty well. I have like some very cool prototype guitars that were like awesome to even like have. Those is really incredible.
Yeah.
But at NAMM, we had just an interesting situation. Like I had gone out several times and hung out with them. We had gone out to dinner several times. I had taken them out to lunch. They'd taken me out to lunch. Like we had a relationship, right?
Yeah.
I go to their booth at NAMM to say what's up, and the dude has to look at my face and my name tag like 5 times before he connects that I'm Dan. So I was again like, look, like I could give a fuck that you guys also make the best guitars. Like if this relationship isn't mutual, if you guys don't operate like a family and like have like support that feels positive, like I don't care. Like you guys don't need my help selling guitars. Your guitars sell themselves.
Right.
Like I'm here endorsing you guys because I want to connect with you guys. You know what I mean? And I literally, after that, walked over to Jeff's booth. And as I'm like walking in, he goes, Dan, what's up, dude? And I'm like, what the fuck? You know my name? What the fuck? And I'm like, as I'm saying, what the fuck? I'm like staring at these walls of the most incredible guitars I've ever fucking seen.
Oh yeah.
And he invites me into like the secret back door, little mini booth, and he puts a bunch of guitars in my hands. And I was just like, dude, yeah, man, like, what do we got to do to make this happen? And he invited me down to the factory, like the following weekend or something, like right after NAMM, even though they were busy as shit. And he put some guitars in my hands to test, and I was just like fucking hooked, dude. I met the entire, like, people have been working at the Kiesel factory for like 35 years, dude. He's
Holy
like,
shit.
oh, this is Maria. She was here when I was 4 years old. Like, insane shit. And I'm like, oh, that's why they say Kiesel family. Like,
yeah,
it's real ass shit. And like, everyone's just like busting each other's balls and laughing, and like, just the attention to detail and like the amount of time that Jeff puts into every fucking thing. It's insane. Like a lot of people have been rubbed wrong by the dude's personality, but if you know him at any level beyond social media, you understand that it's purely from no one loves what they do in the fucking world more than he does.
Yeah. I've met Jeff a few times and hung out with him at NAMM as well. I hung out with him a couple of years ago, and yeah, I mean, I can see it meeting him. I can see it the way that he and again, being an artist of another company, I don't give a shit. Like they make fucking amazing guitars, and Jeff is super. He's really sick and great at what he does. He's just again somebody that puts their 100,000% into it, and like he's in a particular situation that like most, if not all, other companies are not really in. Where he's like
Yeah.
third generation, it's in his blood, and it's very personal for him. You know.
Yeah, man. A lot of what's I mean, there's just people may or may not know, but a lot of things just happened in the past weeks online with like some Kiesel drama. Um, a lot of it can come across as, you know, ego or whatever, but like I literally see it, dude, as someone who's so like the reason why he says he makes the best guitars in the world is because he's so fucking excited to wake up at 5 a.m. to build a guitar and put it in your hands the same way that like you gotta try my mom's lasagna, dude. It's the
Yep.
best lasagna in the fucking world. Like if you don't come over tomorrow at 7, like
That's
we're
funny.
not friends. Like it's literally like that amount of like family pride and love
Yep.
and like
Oh yeah.
I feel nothing negative about it. I just feel this like innocent excitement that's like, dude, he's one of the best guitar masters and he's still mastering guitar building.
Yep.
You know, and it's just like to be a part of the company where I can witness that unfold before my eyes. Like every year he releases a series of new guitars that just level up on what was there before, and it blows my fucking mind, dude. It just I'm just stoked to be part of a company that I don't have to question. Like I literally, when this drama shit happened, I sent Jeff a text during all of it, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I know this is like a lot of crazy shit going on. I just want you to know I've never been more proud to be a Kiesel artist."
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? And like, and he's just dealing with like this huge backlash
Yeah.
because, like, you did you see what happened?
I saw, and I was lucky enough also to talk to Chris, who he has an episode on the show as well, and we talked about it a little bit, and also I saw his apology, and like I kind of was privy to like the whole thing, and I think he handled it in a great way. It may have taken a little bit, but he owned up to it. He realized that, like, hey, I maybe I fucked up, and this is what I'm going to do to better it. And
Dude,
I love that because I'm a manager, and it's like it's so easy to like have a knee jerk reaction and like take things personally, and it can take a little bit to like realize like okay, like maybe I need to adjust my approach. Like what's changeable in this situation? What can I
right,
change? Can I change the other person or can I change me? And then
right.
having the balls to like put something out formally and like who else is doing that in a company, right? Like
Yeah,
what other head of a
to a
company is doing that?
million, literally a million people. Like it took him a week to be like, you know what? Your mom also makes dope fucking lasagna, right?
Right, right.
Like it's not like whatever, dude. Like that levity and that like personability that like just
Yeah,
even directly talked to the guy that the whole thing like what I mean if people I don't want to talk about it any more than we already are
yeah,
but
yeah,
like if
yeah.
people want to put themselves in they can but yeah man like I am so proud to be a Kiesel artist because it just shows the humility and everything.
Hell yeah. Well, we actually got some movement in the chat here. So um, we had my buddy, or actually, let's go back. So Alex Mungle says Dan Sugarman is basically the songbird of our generation.
Alex Mungle is the light lord of all 7 layers of civilization.
There you go. Light Alex, the Light Lord Mungle.
Yeah, he,
Um,
he does all of the lighting for Ice Nine Kills and Black Dahlia Murder and
yeah.
other sick bands. It's fucking unreal.
Fuck yeah, man. Oh, well, sorry, Alex, as well, for missing that Five Finger Death Punch tour.
Yeah.
So
So
Noel says very profound. So sounds like he got some good stuff from our talk here. Shane says music is the universal language. Oh, sick! Andrew from the Faceless is hanging out. He says this is such an enriching conversation. I really hope that people listening that are in younger bands can impart this approach as well.
tight.
Yeah.
I hope that was about when we were talking about lasagna or something.
Yeah, yeah. I really hope everyone can eat each other's mom's lasagnas.
Yes.
Lasagnas, all right.
Yes. Hey, no, this is not implied.
Easy,
Anything gross.
easy. So what would you say now are like your biggest influences for maybe your shreddier guitar stuff, and then also like if you're gonna get into like the Ice Nine writing kind of stuff like that, like who's really tickling your pickle right now?
That's a fucking weird one, dude. I'm super, super strange, and I like to rely on my musical DNA, I call it, more so than like, dude, I don't listen to much music, man. Like I'm working so much on music or like working on guitar lessons so much that like I find myself listening to like I'll just throw on like chill hop on YouTube and just like let that be in the background while I'm like cooking, just some like mellow shit.
Yeah.
But as far as like influences that developed my musical DNA, like that's to me influences kind of come in and out of existence, but like the shit that I'm like built of that like I bleed if you cut me open,
Yeah.
like that's like my musical DNA, like the shit that I grew up on. Um, like I will forever, you know, be drawn to Dimebag. Dimebag's huge for me on lead playing, dude. Also, just his approach to riffing was fucking incredible for its time.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, like I ran my course with that when I was like 16 and shit, but like
Yep.
that played a large role on me. Um, Dudes like Emil Wursler fucked my ass up. Um, Thog from Decapitated. That's
Oh,
like
dude.
that's just a stem from Dimebag.
Yep.
You know, so that's just like a second generation. You know, um,
That guy's right hand is insane, dude.
it's unreal. When I watch him play, I'm like, how is there not a hole in your guitar?
Yeah, legit. Like his right hand is fucking crazy.
And his vibrato is
Oh
the
yeah.
most fucking dope shit. And then like that to me is like where to me like music gets more fun when I start talking about that stuff. So like my influences get weirder when I start to talk about the shit that's not like guitar oriented.
Right.
So for me, like my lead playing is based on like Maynard from Tool, like the way that he uses something that's called melisma. It's where
Yeah.
you basically slur. Do you know what melisma is?
No.
It's where you like slur your lines. Like you could take like oh my god,
Oh, okay.
oh my god, you slut. So like it's the idea of taking like one word and doing multiple syllables and like slurring up it, and
Okay.
it's like it's very like it's like slurred for lack of a better word and
Yeah.
kind of like snaky and kind of like plays around the rhythm. Um, that's huge on my playing. Lane Staley from Alice in Chains is huge on my vibrato. Um, like Ravi Shankar, like some sitar stuff is really, really huge on the way that I phrase like my slips and slides.
Yeah.
Like horn players. Uh, like Dave was talking about some awesome stuff like Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, like all of that shit really, really, really hit me when I was a kid and coming up because my dad and mom loved jazz. My uncle also is like a world-class jazz pianist. He learned. Have you ever heard of Lenny Tristano before?
No, dude, that sounds so sick though to like come from a family that enjoys that stuff.
Yeah, man. My uncle learned from this guy named Lenny Tristano, who, according to legend, created a style of jazz that uses like minor seconds. It's like the most dissonant form of jazz ever, right?
Oh
And
shit.
this dude was doing it in like the 50s and 60s in New York, and he was blind.
Damn.
And my uncle started learning from him when he was 13. And this is the coolest part about it. Lenny Tristano also taught Joe Satriani.
What the fuck?
Yeah, right?
Dude,
So
that's so sick.
I know. So my uncle, when he was 18, went to like Queens Music College to like continue studying, and they were like, "Nah, do you want to be a professor?" So
Whoa.
my uncle is like stupid sick, retarded jazz pianist. He was also like a dope. He was in Friday the 13th and a bunch of like horror movies. That dude is extremely accomplished
shit.
and interesting, and also the highest motherfucker you've ever seen.
Oh
No
yeah?
one, yeah, dude.
Nice. Man, we need to hit like I need to hang out with this guy.
Yeah, Uncle Stu is where it's at. But yeah. So I just grew up around being around awesome jazz, watching my other uncles play. Always inspired me as like a young kid to just listen to cool music and be open to when older people told me to listen to shit. So like when I
Yeah.
was young, I think I was infected with a lot of this stuff that still comes out of me. Like I was saying, I don't really listen to a lot of new stuff. So when I am writing, it's probably like it's subconscious, subliminal shit from my past.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have any like stick out favorite tour moments since obviously you've got a long history? Any moments maybe like the tough ones
Yeah.
that like everybody in the band had to like band together to like get through, but it was like damn that put some hair on our chest.
Oh man, there's been fucking countless ones. The first, I mean, just on the hair on our chest thing, first thing that comes to my mind is because we all are walking through the desert for like 20 miles shirtless.
Ugh.
As Blood Runs Black just finished like a 2+ month tour. I don't remember who it was with. And we were doing it in a Cruise America RV.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this was like ghetto fancy, like luxury on a budget.
It's a ghetto fancy.
Yeah, dude, it was bad. So, every couple of like every week or so, we had our driver named Denny. We'd go, hey Denny, like make sure to get an oil change, like while we're there, like while we're at the show, get an oil change. We'd finish the show, like, yo, dude, do we get an oil change? Oh, we're handled, we're good to go. Tour's over. We're driving from like Texas, I think. Yeah, no, the last show was in Lubbock, Texas. There's some other fucked up shit that I will never ever say on air. That happened
Okay.
to me too.
You can tell me later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. That's scarred me for life.
Oh, man.
But we finished this show in Lubbock, Texas, and we're driving home, and I think we like just crossed the border from Texas into New Mexico, and our driver puts on Going Back to Cali,
Yeah.
and
Nice.
we're all like standing up, like oh,
Yeah.
and then we hear boom, and we hear a bunch of metal, and we look back,
Oh no.
back of the Cruise America like back window, and we just
Yep.
see our engine on the fucking highway.
What the fuck? The engine?
It literally just fell, not as a whole. It literally like fell to pieces. Like
Oh no.
2.5 months on like 500+ miles a day, didn't do one oil change.
Oh no.
So
Wow.
something gunked up and just like chucked a piece of the engine, which I don't know. I don't know shit about cars, dude. But all I
It
know
sounds like to me like the pistons seized because there wasn't any lubrication and shit just like shot everywhere.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, that is what happened because there was 4 huge dents on our hood.
Yeah, so
From
that's the
that-
pistons exactly like, oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, dude.
That shit's scary because that could like shoot back and fucking go through somebody, dude. Like,
I'm not surprised, dude.
ugh.
Only one person would have deserved that on that day.
Yeah, right. God damn it.
So we were like stuck in the middle of the fucking desert in Las Cruces. We literally like walked like I don't know fucking how far it was, dude. This was like pre everyone having maps on their phones. So I don't even
Oh,
remember
dude.
shit. But we walked to like a diner and were able to like get a hold of some fucking gas station that towed us, and then we had to live in the RV in like the back of like a shitty mechanic repair shop for like 2 days as they put that shit back together.
Ugh.
And I just remember that just being the most like, well, this is what touring is like. And dude, there's been so fucking many of those, man. Like lost axles on the trailer.
Yep.
Trailer comes off the hitch and rolls. Like
Oh man. Yeesh. Scary with all the gear. Fuck.
yeah, dude. And somehow never had anything bad happen. The worst one was when we finished recording Ground Zero and the car was broken into and we lost all of our gear. Dude, I lost my fucking laptop and 2 main hard drives because last minute Zach was like, I have all the stems we need, but just bring your hard drives just in case we need them. And I'm like getting in my car, I'm like, oh, let me go grab those real quick. Totally would have been fine. But I lost like all the music I ever made before that point.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, it was bad.
Shit.
But yeah, I mean, life goes on, man.
You
There's
said,
also
yeah.
there's incredibly sick tour stories as well that are like
Exactly.
that make up shit.
You have any of those for us?
Oh man. Let me think. What's like a real fucking cool one? This is a good one. As Blood Runs Black got flown out to do, we headlined Jack Claw Festival in Indonesia. This was to like 15,000+ people. It was an outdoor festival. It was fucking insane.
Whoa.
And around that tour, or around that show, we had booked like Thailand, and we wound up being the first metal band to ever play in Borneo, Malaysia. which was really fucking cool.
Dude.
While we were in Malaysia, or in Borneo actually, we were in Sabah more specifically. A lady came and interviewed us, which wound up being in a book that was like chronicling us being in like the first metal band, and it was just like this crazy fucking thing.
That's so cool.
But on one of the days off, we I still don't know what the fuck to call the guys who like show up at the foreign things and take you around. I call them handlers, but there's probably a better name for it.
Yeah.
Caretakers. I don't know. My guide.
Runners.
Yeah, it's not really a runner when they're there for 3 days with you, though. It's like
right.
But
we'll call them the TM of the day, the days.
They're the TMs. We did a bunch of like island hopping, and we did like parasailing and like jet skiing.
Wow.
And we went to another one that had like all these like coconuts cut for us, that had like a feast of all this like seafood that was made for us on the island.
Oh man.
And we're like pulling up on like jet skis like between islands, and I'm just like, this is what touring's like?
Holy shit.
The exact opposite feeling of the last fucking story.
Yeah, and it makes those good stories even sweeter, right? Like,
yeah, man.
I can't tell you how many fucking crazy van shit, we've had to deal with and all that stuff, but like when you have like one of those really good moments, makes you appreciate, the good shit more when there's tons of bad shit going on.
and like my favorite part about this shit, dude, is, and this comes from Greg, actually, the oldest Blood Rooms Black guitar player. He would always remind me, like, dude, just think about the shit you'll think about when you're like 89 years old on your deathbed. You know what I mean? So like right now, talking about the time I broke down listening to Going Back to Cali, it's like, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't even look back on that as a negative. Like it was fucking funny. Lessons learned. The tour, I remember a lot of funny shit around it. Like it's like a bookmark that just reminds me of like a zip folder of shit,
Exactly.
So like, if you're really living your life and experiencing these things for those bookmark moments, so you have some like decent fucking things to flip through as you're dying, like that's tight, and that's what I'm looking for.
That is tight. I have to agree with you.
Can I ask you to promise me something, John?
Please.
Do you promise to die with me? Just do you promise to die at some point?
You know what? Yeah, I will make that promise with you.
We'll make a pact that we both will die at some point.
At some point, we'll die. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that, dude. I think we're closer now.
I think so too, guys. Everyone is hearing this right now. Dan and I have made a pact. One day, we're both gonna die.
I promise, dude.
It's gonna be some weird shit if we end up going at the same time, like on the same day.
See, if when you're dying, you could look back at your past and laugh, the same way that when you're healthy, you could look at your death in the future and laugh. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
I think we're onto something here. Let's keep moving with that.
All right, Dan. So before I let you go, I know you said that you don't listen to a whole lot of new music and shit right now, but similar to what I asked Dave, just kind of get your playlist. So even if it's just like whatever chill hop station you're listening to, like what do you got on the playlist, brother?
There's so many things that I like love though. You know what I mean? Like like chill hop shit. Like if you just search chill hop on YouTube, like you'll find so many fucking awesome playlists. Just like the lo-fi hip hop.
Yep.
Mellow shit with like vinyl sound happening while there's just like
love
a chill
that stuff, dude.
going on. It's just really good background music. But like David Maximicic, Who Bit the Moon, is like something that I always will play, and like that's fantastic working music.
Yep.
Tesseract, Polaris is something
that album is so good.
That album for me has a direct through line to like Morning View by Incubus. Like to me, Tesseract is just like gent Incubus.
Okay. I can. Now that you mention it, like a lot of his vocal lines are in that vein. Actually, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It absolutely is. It's very Brandon Boyd, which is another influence of mine on the guitar.
Yeah.
Fucking love that dude's voice. And then like newer bands like Envy on the Coast, something like Joe was just showing me a bunch of cool shit yesterday. I'll always love like Mars Volta and shit like that. Red Hot Chili Peppers, fucking grew up on that shit. Pantera forever. Like there's so many things, dude. I really shouldn't fuck up your playlist with so many things, but
no, it's gonna be the Big Shred Podcast Dan Sugarman artist playlist. So
oh man,
you've got some good stuff.
Decapited's for sure on there.
Okay.
Gotta throw some like Chimera self-titled.
Nice.
That was a big one for me, dude. I actually was supposed to be in Chimera,
No way.
which was the weirdest thing. I did it was Summer Slaughter with As Blood Runs Black, and Rob Arnold was playing with 6 Feet Under. And Matt
Right.
DeVries, who's also the Chimera guitar player, was filling in and doing rhythms for 6 Feet Under. So it was Rob and Matt, and they would watch me play every night from side stage while I was doing As Blood Runs Black shit.
Damn.
And I was like, yo, this is fucking weird. Like, I grew up obsessing over you guys. What the fuck? Right?
Like while you're playing, I was actually really obsessed with your band.
Can you please avert your eyes?
Oh man.
But the last day of the tour, they're like, yo, after your set, like, knock on the door on our bus. We want to talk to you about some shit. And they both let me know. They're like, hey, dude, like, we're both phasing out of Chimera. Like, Mark's moving forward with the band. We think you'd be a fucking great replacement for Rob as, like, the lead, if you'd be into it. And I was like, holy fuck. Oh, my God. What the fuck? And then Emil Wursler got the spot. And I was like, oh, that's my favorite guitar player. You should know. Yeah, no.
Like, if there was one person, then it's
yeah, but it was a very weird thing. And, like, I still talk to Rob pretty often.
Yeah.
That dude is, like, a huge guitar hero of mine coming up. So to ever be given that opportunity even was just like such a fucking.
That's huge, man.
Oh, it was wild, dude. So I just like I continue putting pedal to the metal, man, trying to put some mileage on this fucking road, and be the right person at the right place, at the right time to make opportunities like that happen. Which is like, that's what this podcast was. That's what.
Oh yeah.
Any of my bands were. That's what my record is, dude. It's just make it fucking happen. Do the work.
Hell yeah, man. So I think we've got plenty for your sick artist playlist. Again, Dan Sugarman, he just put out a sick solo album called Inside Out Part 1. Jam it, and then keep an eye out for Part 2, which is what I'm doing. Going to be jamming this while I patiently await Part 2. And check Dan out with Ice Nine Kills whenever touring is a thing again. And Dan is playing a fucking stadium near you. And you can go check Dan out inside of his bus. He's got his own bus. He only sees fans on odd hours. So at 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., if it's an even hour, he's not seeing anyone.
And if your name has more than 3 consonants in it, I won't look at you.
He'll talk with you. He's just going to be looking above your head. He won't look at you.
Yeah, I like vowels, though. Come at me with those vowels.
And then only talk to Dan through me. So just make sure he doesn't talk with people. I'll talk to him for you.
And you won't tell me what's said, and we don't live anywhere near each other, so it's perfect.
It's perfect. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I hope to have you on again and get some more insight, some more in-depth knowledge, if you will, on the touring game and why you do what you do. I appreciate it. Again, check out all of Dan's music, and dude, we will catch up soon.
Absolutely, John. Thanks so much, dude. Take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Be
man.
safe, stay healthy, stay sane. Fuck Corona, the beer. It's not a good beer.
Later, brother.
Later, dude.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging during episode 13 of the Big Shred podcast. Again, if we're just catching the tail end of this, it was with Dave Davidson and Dan Sugarman. It will be up on YouTube. The audio will be up on Spotify and everywhere else where you can consume the audio form of podcasting. Thanks so much for all the support. Again, follow us on Twitter, Big Shred Podcast, Instagram, the Big Shred Podcast. Twitch is my personal Twitch. It'll be getting moved over to the podcast shortly, but it'll be twitch.tv/abioticjohn. And then all these will be up, like I mentioned, on the YouTube channel, The Big Shred Podcast. So this Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, I will have Killian Duarte and Kyle Conkiel from Bad Wolves. Killian plays for Abiotic and also for Scale the Summit. They'll be here hanging on Wednesday. So if you're around, spend your evening with us, and I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Have a good night.